Welcome! This is Overdeveloped. This is my new podcast series. This is the very, very first episode with my special guest. This is Langston Overwatch. He pitched this idea to me. I to be honest with you, I don't remember if I had this idea first or if you put it in, like I had thought about a podcast, but you kind of like said something in my Discord and I was like, yeah, that's a pretty good idea, or like I kind of shaped it from there. But this is Langston. So what this show is, sorry, before I get into that, say hi.
Hello.
Introduce yourself.
Hello. I am human. I wasn't forced to come here and held hostage. No, it's a pleasure to be on.
Yeah.
It's a pleasure to be on the pilot episode.
Yeah, so what this is we are going to talk, this is primarily an Overwatch podcast, obviously, if you are here, but we are going to talk about what is current new stuff. Today, the spotlight just happened, literally a couple hours ago, so that's pretty big.
Yep.
Which we're going to spend a lot more time typically, and then we're going to talk about my guest, aka Langston, but anyone on this show, their relationship with Overwatch, what they think about the game, what got them into the game, what they do, how they're related to it, right? And then the final section will be general gaming stuff. Just trying to figure out who you are, pick your brain a little bit, and my special final segment, which is only a surprise to you because afterwards it will be known to everybody. But
oh boy,
you'll get to know. So, I guess let's kind of just jump right into the spotlight. Now, as I figure out the first thing to really talk about, can you give me your general first, like, what are your key takeaways? What did you find, from it? How are you feeling right now?
So this is very fresh. Like he said, this just happened today. Like 5 hours ago, the live stream started. So my first impression is I'm excited. I think there's been a lot of... I also haven't read any feedback from anyone about it yet. So this is just my brain. And I know in the community in general, there tends to be a lot of bitterness, just general bitterness towards everything that happens. So my first reaction is to just be excited for Overwatch's future outlook for 2025. And I think that there were a lot of expectations set for this spotlight. They don't do things like this very often, and they seem very, very abnormally confident about it. There was a lot of promotion for it, and I can see why, because any of these individual things they did would have been, like, they would have had a specific, like, director's take, right? Mm-hmm. They would have had a director's take and a whole update just for that one thing, and they hit us with about 7 of them. Mm-hmm. And so, I'm just pretty excited.
Yeah, you sound like a lame viewer, so that's the way you're talking. Okay, so, yeah. I guess I'll also go. So, I definitely, I don't think it's a secret that a lot of people figured that the big change was going to be something passive or talent related, something like that, which I was definitely very, very skeptical about, and I still am. It's not something that you can kind of figure out how good or bad it is until you get your hands on it.
Yeah.
But have you kind of looked into like how they're implemented yet? Because I was watching Spylo as well, and he was talking with them. He was going through a lot of the passives themselves. Have you looked at like how, like, specifically more of like how they're implemented? What do you feel about it? Like the system surrounding it.
So I saw a bit. I saw that it would be it's not just over time in the match itself you get it, it's through getting XP, which I'm assuming is through like some sort of stat, like I'm assuming it won't just be kills because supports have to get it as well. So I'm assuming it'll be through like doing damage, getting kills,
I believe it's anything that would give you ult charge.
Yeah, so we'll have like an ult charge meter and then like an XP meter. And that was the one change where if I were to, like, that's the one I'm skeptical about. Everything else is changes that I've been asking for and players have been asking for years now. Mm-hmm. And the perks one is the one I am a little scared of. But like you said, I'm holding back my, like, little voice in my head that's telling me all the things that could be wrong with it until I actually get my hands on it in only 5-6 days now.
Yeah.
So If I personally was the one in control, I would have said we put it in quick play first, give it like at least a week or two, and then implement it in competitive. Because, doing a sweeping change that affects every character in the game is very big.
Yeah.
And so there's going to be things that are scuffed. And I'm sure there'll be...
Oh, right.
Yeah. Yeah. But I also think there'll be kind of similar... Okay, let's talk about the elephant in the room. Rivals.
Yeah. Okay.
I think a big reason why people love that game right now is because of the... there's a lot of things in that game that are wrong with it.
Yeah.
But because it's so new, everybody's got their hands in the things that are scuffed.
That's true. It's a very big, it is new, right? And we all know that, right? We all know that Rivals it's the new hotness, right? It's the only hero shooter, in the same space, obviously, like Valorant and, there have been hero shooters, Apex, but it's the first hero shooter that is really trying to tackle that arena shooting genre, and it's just new. It is, everything is new. Yes, it has its tendons from Overwatch, but, with pickable passives, or whatever they're called. They're perks, sorry.
Perks.
I got the perks. It's like, I don't know, it's the characters that you know already are going to be new. There's new stuff to explore everywhere. The new heroes coming in the future are going to have all of their own stuff as well, right? Like, we already saw Freya, who we'll get to. We saw her perks, they're already, ready to go. And it's just interesting. It's not just that the characters are new, it's that the ways that you play the characters are new.
Yeah.
Right? And I think that's kind of the best case scenario.
Yeah.
Now, in practice, how is that going to play out? I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But what I want to, ask you, so I don't know as familiar with you are how the system works, but I was watching Spylo, and he was asking... I think he was asking Gavin Winter this because he kind of knew some of the stuff about it. But it sounds like the way that you swap, because that was the one concern I had. I was like, how do you swap? Can you swap passives? How do you swap heroes? It sounds like the way that it's implemented is that you get a certain amount of how much you've built on other characters.
Yeah.
But if you swap back to a character that you've already been playing, you keep whatever you were on.
You're right
so
back where you were.
That's really interesting to me because it, in some ways, building it up, and I guess I'll ask you this. Do you think that this system is, one, going to, but two, designed around preventing counter-swapping?
I think that they've given themselves a lot of knobs to turn with this, where I think there might be safeguards that they could turn to where if, let's say, it doesn't adhere to counter-swapping enough or adheres too much, because this is something that they've gone back and forth on since Overwatch 2 came out, whether they want counter-swapping to be part of the identity of the game or not. And I think, I saw a little bit, whenever you have you start at level 1, level 2 is the minor perk, and then level 3 is the major perk. And if you switch while you're on level 3, you drop to level 2 on the new character. If you were to go back, you get to level 3. I think that they knew that these are the kind of questions players would ask. And I think that's why they went ahead and implemented the preserving at 2 and not 3. And I think if they needed to, they could go to 1, all the way to 1.
Well, I guess it's more like... So, when they give you some when they give you XP from swapping, then that is a little bit of some way to be like, hey, you're not going to lose all your progress if you swap. It's the same thing with ult charge, but ult charge is also doing that, right? It's not like that's going away. So I guess it's more so do you think that part of the reason they do that is to prevent counter swapping, right?
Yeah.
Is that something that was really even thought about in whenever they're doing it, or do you think that the pickable passives themselves, or whatever they're called, the perks, I'm going to mess that up a lot, are the perks themselves the idea of you don't need to counter swap because your character, I think probably a good example is who counters Orisa? What tank counters Orisa?
Well, there's what the players think counter Orisa, and there's what actually does. The common pick I think is Zarya. That's the latter pick.
Sure.
Forgetting.
So I guess that's a fine example to use because you can change your spear spin into a shield.
It's a new character now. How do you counter swap it?
It's a different character.
Oh no, there's a lot to get into with that. I think this kind of okay, wait, hold on, let me collect my thoughts real quick. So Overwatch started making characters, like whenever the game came out, characters had niches that they fill, right? And then as the game went on, I think they started building characters that are more generalists, where like, you know, Brigitte, she's like a support who's also a melee character that can peel, who can brawl, who can do all these things.
Right,
she's self-sustainable. She has a lot. And you see that with Overwatch 2 characters as well. Or Sigma was like a huge example of that in Overwatch 1. Like, major overload of kit at the start. They had to nerf everything about that character. And in Overwatch 2, they kind of had to do that with tanks because they're moving to solo tank, and if they only fill one of the roles tank's supposed to do, then they're just going to get outclassed in another area. And I think this kind of also kind of perpetuates that issue, because you might have a character who fills one of their weaknesses by using a perk. Like, they're a character that has known weaknesses for like 8 years now, and all of a sudden they're implementing a perk that like either compensates for that weakness or changes what their strengths are, gives them a new strength. And I think it is kind of trying to facilitate that mindset where I don't have to switch off my character, because once I hit this level 2, level 3 power spike, I'm going to all of a sudden be able to do the things that I wouldn't be able to do prior to this patch against this comp.
Right. And I think also, like, something to note there is, like, I think a lot of characters have been moving into the generalist idea, and something that the perks could do is to allow that generalist design where you're like decent against most things, maybe strong against some things, and then have a fighting chance against, you know, others, or maybe even spec yourself into more of a niche, right? That could be the that could be kind of like the compromise there, right? Yeah. Where it could do the opposite, right? It could make a character like Roadhog, who, you know, we hate and is very, very like one note, kind of like does one thing. It could bring him into the generalist idea, right? Like he could make up for some of his weaknesses. Or again, it could be like Hazard. Like Hazard could spec himself into, like, one of them is I saw he gets like lifesteal from his block, right? That was like one of the perks. So like he could spec more into like, I want to be in the front line, you know. And the other one was like, you know, Hazard is a dive character, but he's kind of limited in his range to an extent. And
until he jumps at you.
And one of the passives, or one of the perks, is the major perk, is that he goes further in his leap. So like then he could be a little more divey, right? And like, so I don't know. I don't know if one or the other is good or bad. Yeah. And I think the hardest thing about it is that you can't swap them.
Yeah.
Which is one of the really interesting parts, right?
Yeah. I would say that actually an aspect that I kind of like admire about, before we can get into all the concerns about it, because there are many. One of the things I do, one of the ideas that I could see behind the decision-making process is that you can choose essentially pathways that you want to take your character down. Do you want to play them more in a certain way or another way? And that makes it a lot more dynamic, because a lot of these characters we've thought of kind of a specific way for so many years that without reworking or adding a new character, we can change the context that these characters can play in just by picking a new perk. And I do think that in some regards that is a very admirable thing to add to the game. But this is a huge but. There are concerns about how much are we going to have to keep track of as players? Or how obvious is it going to be that an enemy player has picked a certain pathway and they come into the next fight and they're a completely different character?
There are like, I mean, if you take however many heroes there are in the game, with all, you know, the talent or the perks that they're going to have, what do we have right now? 42?
Yeah.
Right?
Times
nearly
4.
200 icons to learn.
Yeah.
Nearly 200 different things on this, because on the scoreboard, right? Like I'm sure on PC and maybe on console too, but like you can scroll over it and see which one it actually is. But like, it's all like if I want to see it like at a blink, especially mid fight, because there are going to be people who get it mid fight and they're going to activate it mid fight. Mm-hmm. So I need to know that information as soon as possible. I now need to know exactly what each of those icons means.
Yeah.
Or at the very least, I need to know one of each. You know what I mean? I need to know which one is the one, so that I know if it's not that one, it's the other one, right? From the, and that's part of the learning curve. But I guess that's a good segue into like the legibility of it all.
Yeah.
Right. Is it too hard to keep track? You know what I mean?
That's the thing, because I predict that people are going to say that this change shifts the game in a more casual direction. Mm-hmm. But how much more things are we making new players learn, or casual players who don't read the patch notes? Like people that jump in every 6 months and they're expecting to just plop right back in and play the game that they played for years on and off. They're not going to be able to do that as easily, because someone's going to call out, hey, their Reinhardt has now, turned into whatever. And you're going to be like, what the hell are you talking about? Like,
yeah. Like, oh my god, their Orisa just charged your spear at me. Mm-hmm. It's like,
or you notice your teammate picked like, oh, I want to go this perk, and meanwhile there's been a meta carved out where you're supposed to pick the other one. Yeah. And I mean, that's just inevitable with competitive games in general. People are going to complain about what you pick or what you do, but like, it's just another thing. And I think that if we weren't getting, this is going to be something we bring up later, the hero info and stats page, this game would be even more insane for new players to learn. Because already you're having to refer to wikis like you're playing Terraria in order to learn all the, like, how much does this do? What's the cooldown on this? What does this ability do?
Because and it's constantly shifting, too. Like, I was thinking about it, and I literally was like, I can't remember exactly what it was, but I was like, what is Mercy's passive? I was like, is it the one that just heals her more, like, passively? Or is it the one where she gets a percentage of the healing that she deals? I literally was like, the other day, I was like, I don't remember. They changed it so many times. And it hasn't changed in a while, but it's also like, how much damage is this doing? How much damage? Like, just very minor things. And that's kind of like, the part, one of the downsides of, like, patching so often is that, like, I'm literally, like, I don't even know. Like, I'm kind of in the general ballpark. And I actually think that, Gavin Winter saying that what's it called? That system where you can see everybody's, like, all the stuff, is one of his projects that he really wanted to do. And I'm pretty sure that they allowed it to get through because of pickable passives, perks. Because it's so hard to read, like, because when you start saying, like, oh, do an additional damage, do this much additional damage.
How much?
Somebody, yeah, right? Well, it's also more like, how much is that, like, proportionally from, like, how much does it do regularly? Now I know it does 25 more than that.
Yeah.
But how much does it actually do? And then it's also, like, when things get changed, right, it's not just, like, a percentage. So, like, if they make balance changes to one of those things, well, now that also shifts. Yeah. But in-game, I would assume it's also going to show, like, the effective damage, right? Like, so it's not just going to say the perk does 25 more. It might say in parentheses 135 total.
Yeah.
Or something like that, which could be huge. Like, that's so easy to understand at that point.
I think that's definitely something that needs to be added when the perks are added, because...
Well, it's not going to get there with perks.
Well, it's
going to take a while.
When it gives you the options, it should tell you exactly how much of that stat you're increasing, because... How are players going to weigh which one they want more if they're not knowing, like, if it just says additional damage? It's like, do I want 25 more damage on this, or would I rather have, like, 20% of whatever on this?
Or do I want the thing that just literally does something completely different? Like, I can understand that, right? Like, what's the Baptiste for? He gets, like, a mid-air, like...
I haven't read all of them,
I haven't either, but I heard them talking about he gets, like, a mid-air leap. Like a Hanzo.
Like a...
It's on its own.
In addition to his super jump?
So he super jumps, and then during super jump, he's allowed to, like, do some kind of lateral movement. But that's, like, on its own cooldown or something. Yeah. But that's something it's easy to understand. It's like, okay, I get, like, I get a mid-air dash on that, which is just so weird.
Yeah, I saw... That kind of reminds me of kind of a little bit of a weird segue. I saw a post where someone was in a comment section talking about Ana needs mobility. People were like, Marvel Rivals players are ruining this genre.
Does Ana? I don't think she has any. They showed us all of hers.
I haven't. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think she does. But someone was saying like Ana has mobility, and people were talking about like people don't understand that characters need to have weaknesses. Yeah. Like there's a reason she doesn't have mobility because of how much utility she provides in a stationary.
Yeah, and so far what I've seen, none of these are like, and this like they're not removing any weaknesses, and in fact, for the most part, they all seem very active.
Mm-hmm.
Like you have to consider what you're doing. Like you have to think about them. It's not many of them are like passive value, like 15% less knockback. You know, like that just happens.
I will say, the little devil on my shoulder told me to go read mangas. And I did see one of the major ones I thought was going to be a certain way, but then I reread it and I was like, this isn't that bad. It was when he hits crits, he stacks up how much more overhealth his next cardiac is going to give him. I thought I read that as it was giving it to him immediately, but it is kind of better, I guess, to be like, you're getting the crits now, so you get a greater reward later instead of just immediately applying. But...
Yeah, no, I mean, there's a lot, and some of them are like very interesting, like Mauga. The one that he counts as 2 people.
Oh yeah,
that one
hurt.
is so cool.
Yeah,
I mean, not to say that I think it's like.
On one hand, it's cool. On the other hand, I'm scared.
It might heal him more on the cart.
Yeah,
because it's like double.
It gives him like double self heal while he's on an objective.
Yeah,
and it's like he's just gonna sit on point, be set up, and not die.
And the thing is that like it's more so like. Yes, more healing on the objective is something, but it limits his range of motion, and also it's also you move the cart faster because if you have just Mauga on it, so you give up the frontline pressure to get the cart further, but you still can have 4 people. It's such a weird like I don't know. It's cool, but some of those like less how do I say quantifiable ones like what is the value this actually brings. Those are going to be a lot harder to if they're going to balance them. To be honest, like I think they will take a look at some of them. Like it's not going to be like a perfect rollout, but like how much are they going to be balancing heroes as opposed to balancing their perks? And that is really going to be like I'm sure they have built-in tools where like these have certain win rates and pick rates, like these perks in particular. But that's going to be like really hard because. Now you have to think, consider like when we're nerfing one thing, we're probably also somewhat either nerfing or buffing the perk. Yeah. And I don't know, like that's tough. Like the balance rabbit hole just goes down, like deeper and deeper and deeper. And I think they're just gonna have to be okay with that. You know, and we're gonna have to be okay.
We're gonna have to accept that. I mean. This is something that we've had to accept for a while, that there's not going to be a perfect state of balance, and what even is a perfect state of balance. Because when we got to the closest to what a perfect state of balance was, barely anybody was playing the game, because patches weren't coming out as often towards the end of Overwatch 1. And once they did start updating, a lot more often with new stuff, it wasn't balanced anymore. So it's like, do players want new things more than they want good balance? Because... I mean, we've just seen, not to say the same thing over again, but with Rivals, new things are what drive, player satisfaction, player retention. Because, honestly, do we even need to worry about balance that much for this first week or so whenever everybody gets their hands on so many new things? We're not even going to have a good grasp on what is good and not yet.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's going to be something that's going to shake up. And it's crazy that they're actually... OWCS is playing with it immediately, like
right out of the gates.
Instantly, which is going to not go down well, I'm sure, with a lot of people playing in it, Yeah. But I lost my next thing, Shit. But yeah, I mean, it's a big change. Like it is not minor, and it's going to stay here, and I don't think they would remove it.
Yeah, they've clearly put a lot of work into this. I think it's something that after about a month or so, we're going to find out how we really feel about it. Because, for now, it's just new, And there's going to be a lot of knee-jerk reactions to it, and not all of them are going to be even close to what we're actually going to feel in a month. Yeah. So I think for now, we just need to... What I'm going to do personally is... should get my own hands on it, try it out, try a variety of characters and see a bunch of different environments and games. And, because we need to stop giving opinions on things before we try them, There's apprehensions that I have and you have and I think a lot of players have But I think it's okay to be like, we don't know how this is going to be. Let's just write it out. And I mean, shit. Even if it isn't balanced or like the best change in the world, it'll at least be fun for a little bit.
I mean, what was season 9? I mean, I think the season 9 changes were generally positive at launch, right?
Yeah.
Like I think people were a lot more surprised, and as time went on, most of us have come to not really appreciate them.
There's
but
good and bad.
Like we're talking about uncertainties right now. You know what I mean? Like it's not something that is going to just we're just gonna understand. But I don't even think after a couple months. Like it's gonna the ramifications of all these are going to be like
crazy,
intense,
crazy.
So with that, I mean, I think that's probably a good place to. We could talk about perks for an entire 2+ hours, I think. So let's go ahead and we'll go off of that and talk about, I guess, the things here. I guess there's not much from specifically season 15 other than that I think is really important to note. Now, I will say, loot boxes are back.
Mm-hmm.
I've been a little vocal about how I have not wanted to see the return of loot boxes. It does feel a little strange that they're being marketed, like, oh my god, the loot boxes have returned. I'm like, you were literally the face of scummy monetization. Like you were
there were lawsuits.
You're literally just a box. Like that, you look like you're the perfect loot box. But from our understanding, you can't pay for them.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want them back? Like, what do you feel about like loot boxes coming back in any variety?
It's a thing, definitely. There's so much that they haven't given us explicitly to know yet that I don't know how to feel yet, because on one hand, alright, so this is gonna kind of cheat a little bit, but my experience with Overwatch 1, I unlocked almost every single cosmetic in Overwatch 1.
Right.
Through about almost 1,000 hours was when I got to that point. But, I paid like $40 for a game, and you really got to think about, I paid $40 and what I received was every single cosmetic and almost 1,000 hours of, entertainment. You don't really get that in any other service or game nowadays. Like, if you really think about it, like, I think the loot box model, I could see why they shifted away from it to the free-to-play model, because it's not as sustainable as you're going to pay kind of like a subscription service, $10 for the battle pass every 2 months, plus maybe one skin that you liked from that season as well for an additional $15, because you're making more in the long run. I'm just curious to what extent this is going to replace some of that monetization, because
I don't think it will.
I don't think it will, especially if it only includes Overwatch 1 cosmetics, which I'm predicting it might.
Well, it definitely doesn't, because Venture's skin was... Now, it was, of course, it was like a common or an epic or whatever. Rare. Rare is the blue one. But I think really, in the best implication of this, is that it's free, completely free, and ideally you would get them passively for however long you play. Right? It looks more like it's a couple on the battle pass and
I think
a couple missions, right? But it doesn't seem like you get them forever. If that makes sense, right? Like you don't just like quote unquote level up and get a box or something. Now it's really funny that League just announced that they are removing free Hextech chests, which already were like not really free because you have to get like key fragments, and so you got to put all that together.
It could be a whole other episode about that game's monetization models.
I'm not going to talk about it because I'm not as familiar, but it's funny because they're like, it's not sustainable for us for you to get free stuff, and Overwatch is introducing it. And what I mean, I guess I don't really have the footage. I'm gonna speak a little quieter as I get closer to the mic here. But I'm going to see if I can try and find that footage, because if, the reason why I think is if it has any shop cosmetics, then that is really big. You know what I mean?
I do like it in some respects, because I think players should be able to some extent earn things for free. And we kind of already have that with the like credits you can earn with missions and in the battle pass. But like, I'm a kind of a big fan of the model Rivals has, where there are ways where if you play the game, you can get a skin for free fairly easily.
Mm-hmm.
And but I think what it's going to be more like is I don't think players remember how often they'd pop a loot box and it'd be 3 whites and a blue. Because if we're only getting about 10 per season for free, then you're probably not going to get a skin, let alone a skin you want for a character you play, but like anything good.
I literally have no idea.
Especially like for a player like me who owns nearly every Overwatch 1 cosmetic and a lot of Overwatch 2s, what am I even going to get from these loot boxes?
Uh-huh. Do you have any idea, like, if I want to find, like, where it has the actual, like, loot box it's showing us, because I can't really tell, you know, what is a shop skin and what isn't. Or a shop cosmetic, rather. I can tell you, like, a shop skin, but...
What I think it might be is there are shop skins you can buy in the hero gallery, right?
Yeah.
And there are shop skins that you can't because they only come limited time.
Mm-hmm.
I think the ones that aren't limited time, you'll be able to roll from loot boxes, and then probably the limited ones and the battle pass ones and obviously the mythic ones you won't be able to.
Yeah. So
it's not really something I'm like, yay, but it's not really something I'm like, this is gonna kill the game.
Yeah, no, I think I wish it was a little like, if it's infrequent enough and kind of tied to progression, like you gotta keep going and keep going. Like I think that's what Overwatch kind of desperately needs is better progression rewards and free loot boxes that just come, you know, I don't know, every couple hero levels or something. Like that would be a start. Like that's super easy. Doesn't seem like that's what it's gonna be, but it doesn't seem like they have much player progression. Although they talked about it, and maybe I'm missing something, but they talked about trying to like reward you for your time played.
Yeah, I think even in the interview stream with Spilo, he said there's going to be more. They're just not telling us yet.
Right. I didn't even think about that.
They're also. It seems like they're wanting to give more reward for playing competitive and grinding and giving more reward for your time spent. And even the theme of season 15 is like seeming to be based around like competition. Like they call it Honor and Glory. Mm-hmm. And they're showing like they showed clips of Junkrat as like the season trailer with Reinhardt like announcing it. That's another thing. I think Reinhardt might be the announcer for season 15 in game.
Really?
Yeah, I saw a theory about that in my like brief like looking through that, because in the trailer we got to see like just some clips of like Junkrat gameplay and then Reinhardt saying like, "What a kill!" or
I know.
"Amazing." So,
I mean, I think that's probably just trailer talk. I mean, it'd be cool, but like they would probably be in the build of the what the content creators are playing right now, and I don't think it is. I mean, it'd be kind of fun. I mean, like a voice pack would be cool, but
I love that. And I played a bit of Smite, and in that game you could change like who your announcer was. I think more games should do that.
It's a bit of a tough. It's a lot of work.
It's a lot of work.
It could be cool. All right, I think that's really the big stuff. I mean, we could talk about. There's so much stuff to talk about. We're not going to hit everything, obviously. Yeah. I think we can move on to our newest hero here, Freya, who's going to be coming in season 16. We didn't get to see like much of, to be honest with you. She's from Denmark, but she's got that Norse mythology, right? She, I gotta be so real. When I'm looking at her gameplay, I just like could not figure out what I was looking at. You know what I mean? Yeah,
I didn't know what role she was at first until they got into like her abilities and all that. Because, it could be a support with some kind of wind-based, supporting. But after I saw the abilities, I was like, yeah, this is DPS. And they confirmed it. They said our new damage hero.
Yeah, so she's like very like flyer-esque, but not like a traditional
Not like a
flyer.
staying in the air, like Overwatch 1 Farah or anything. Or even like Echo. It seems more like hovering, kinda, and like mid-air mobility, kind of like the direction that I think this might be the full realization of what they wanted to do with Farah's rework with her directional, dash.
She does have that, doesn't she? Mm-hmm. Yeah, I just couldn't I need to watch like people play her. Yeah, because from just these snippets that they had, I just didn't I didn't get a full grasp of what she was really doing.
She reminds me of a demon hunter from Diablo.
Yeah, her primary is also really fast. It seemed like she should be like a sharpshooter character, but she's really more of she has that element, I think. Like she's got like some kind of bolt or like burst or something. Like she fires it and then it explodes later or something like that. I just I don't know. I honestly wasn't expecting. Yeah, that.
Yeah, like
that
what is
thing.
This is an ult, right? Like, come on.
No, her ult is that thing she
the
throws.
bola?
Yeah, the bola. I'm pretty sure. But yeah, look at
it's just
she jumps, shoots, jumps again, shoots, and then jumps again. What? How? Does it reset every time you shoot that? And I think because
maybe for landing shots.
She saw some sort of she has some sort of resource.
Yeah.
So I think the resource is probably those extra big shots, right? I just don't know. I don't understand.
They said something about. They said internally, we consider this character to be one of the highest skill characters.
I mean, she's a big movement character.
Yeah, I'm not sure how that'll actually be with players because dev and player perception are very different. They could think one thing and then it comes out and people will find a thing to exploit or something. It's like, oh, this character's not that
right.
But yeah, she looks like a very interactive design, at least just from what they showed us.
Actually, I'm just realizing, what is her health pool? Probably doesn't have any UI, does it? No. That's probably something we can find later. This better be a 225er.
Should be, because the way she's flying around, she'll probably be pretty hard
Farah
to hit.
and Echo are both 225. Mercy is 225. So I can only assume
225.
Well, yeah, I guess he's kind of aerial, to be honest with you. And then while we're here, we might as well also. I'm excited. I mean, obviously, I didn't expect another DPS character, to be completely honest. One, by the way, I knew it wasn't going to be Maximilian.
Yeah, I don't.
Knew he
what
wasn't
does he do?
What does he do? Right?
Because at that point, everybody's voice is the karaoke singer in the Busan spawn room gonna be a hero?
Yeah, the world is more fleshed out when not everybody is on the battlefield. Yeah, I understand I knew it. I knew it was a red herring. The 43 and whatever trailer that was.
If he was going to be a hero, I think it would have been a long time ago. I think we've crossed that bridge. The hype, there wouldn't even be hype.
I mean, Malga took a really long time. He was in the lore for 5 years.
Yeah, but he's a soldier. He kind of makes sense. We knew his ties to Talon and Baptiste. Maximilian, what would he do on a battlefield? He's an Omnic, but he's just
I agree.
I don't see the potential for him ever.
So while we're here, we'll go on to season 18, I guess. This is Aqua. We don't really have much to go off of.
This is all I see, but I already love this character's design. I have no idea what he's gonna do. I don't even know what role he is.
Yeah. Water character, very, very cool. Staff thing, very interesting.
It looks kind of like a bubble blower paintbrush.
They say
staff.
he's unique, right?
Yeah.
I think you can obviously tell. Now I will say, I find it a little disappointing that how do I say this? A very large majority of the most recent support and DPS characters are skinny, white or Asian, very conventionally attractive characters.
Yeah.
And I don't know. It's not something that's I'm gonna be mad about, but it's one where it's just you have so many places that you haven't explored yet. And I think yes, you haven't explored Denmark, but I mean, I love to the Danish. I apologize. I love you, but you are just more white people. I mean, I say that as a white person myself. So I don't know. I feel like there's more opportunity kind of on the table.
Yeah, I totally agree actually, because I mean the idealized the whole selling point of Overwatch from the get-go was. You can find a hero on this roster somewhere that you identify with, or maybe you don't even identify with, but something you want to explore playing as. And, a very, very diverse roster, and I think they have kind of gone more conventional and same face syndrome and same body type. I mean, even Freya kind of looks like a Widowmaker skin.
She kind of looks like Widowbrig, like kind of merged. But at least we are getting like yet another male support, which is nice because a lot of times it's very easy to be like, oh, woman support, woman heal.
Yeah, for me personally, like I don't mind. Like that's not even something I think about, but like I do want like more roles to play as because you guys don't know. He knows. I'm a support main.
Yeah.
And that's something I think about a lot is which supports do I like and identify with and like playing as, and more hats to put on is definitely something that is only a positive. How many pasty like woman characters can I switch through? I mean, I'm not sick of it. I like all the characters, but
like I'm not saying the designs are bad.
But like, let's let tanks be skinny. Like, I mean, hitboxes or whatever. But like, let's let like when you look at a character, I think it'd be nice if you couldn't immediately tell, oh, this is going to be a support or this is going to be a tank, because
the next woman tank better be like Roadhog size.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean,
like,
why can't it be like
one
that?
One of the woman tanks is a skinny woman, like very. I mean, she's in a mech.
She's in a mech.
A different thing, but it's
like I understand from like a design standpoint, like you want tanks with a higher health pool to be easier to hit, but we can be creative.
Yeah, the men have varied body types, but the women still, like to an extent, there just aren't as many. One of them is a robot, which doesn't count.
Russian bodybuilder.
Yeah, it's like
the big laser gun.
Yeah, like
that's cool. Like that's objectively cool.
Yeah,
and.
No, I'm not saying like all the designs are good. It's just saying that I think in recent memory there's been a little too much like a little too much in the same camp. Especially in the age department as well. I feel like we hardly ever get older characters.
Yeah, it's like Sigma and kind of it.
I don't know how old Naoga is.
Zenyatta's a robot.
Yeah.
We assume he...
in Overwatch 2, have we even gotten any old characters? Lifeweaver's in his 30s.
We don't know how old Ramatra is.
Yeah, we're in our 20s, so we can call him old. But
yeah, for now. We're in our 20s. 19.
You're 19?
Yeah.
I thought you were 20 already.
No, not till May.
Oh my god, you did start last year, didn't you?
Yeah, this is my second year.
Jesus.
At the University of Redacted.
Redacted, yeah. If it wasn't,
I don't know if I'm that close with your audience yet.
If it wasn't obvious, like I don't know. They'll figure it out. It's not hard. It's not hard. But okay, I guess that's pretty. I think he looks cool.
I like the design.
Water character, I think, is sick.
He already looks like without seeing a single ability or description of anything, I already gravitate towards wanting to play. He looks fun.
Like even as like potentially generic he could be, just the concept, I'm sold already. So,
yeah, he looks like he's kind of got like a Breath of the Wild arm thing going on.
He kind of does. Yeah, he's got. I don't know. It's good. I think it's fine. Sorry, not to go on to that too hard. But, anyways, next we have. Let's talk about hero bands. Before we go into which Gavin Winter did talk a little bit about it. We'll get into what he said. Before anything, before today, yay or nay, hero bands?
Yay.
Yay? Yeah, you explain.
So, I think that they are a great tool for players to self-regulate what they do and don't like about their experience with the game. It gives players more control over their experience, and I think when implemented correctly, it is only a positive for the game, a net gain. Specifically in the competitive ranked mode. I don't think it's being implemented anywhere else, but...
Yeah, he said comp. Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's only a net gain because, they have their internal data and whatever, but that's all, they can interpret that however they want. If there is a high ban rate on a character, they know that they should look at that character. I mean, they hear player perception, but, those are all, so many voices in the wind. Everybody's got a complaint about one character in the game. They're going to hear them all. If they see, over half of the games, this character is getting banned, they can then use that metric and be like, we should look at this character for changes or reworks or whatever.
And I think something that I think is interesting is that I played a little bit of Siege on my console years ago, and I came back, when I came back in 2020 or so, after a bunch of new characters had been revealed, or playable, and I missed a bunch of that. Everyone was like, yeah, there was this character named Jackal, and he literally could see footsteps on the ground, and it was terrible, right? And so hero bands or character bands, I shit you not, every time I played, I didn't play ranked, we played unranked, but it had hero bands, right?
I've played a bit of Siege,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I remember whenever I played Jackal was...
I never had a game where Jackal wasn't banned.
Yeah.
Because that going into Overwatch, it's not about strength, right? He wasn't meta anymore.
Yeah.
But it's about design, it's about how fun is the game when those characters are in it, right? So, Overwatch, I think we can all kind of understand the resources to make reworks and everything are tough. Like, it's a lot. And it's not just like, oh, just change their kit, do whatever. They want to make sure the VFX are great. They want to make sure that the icon, all of that stuff, like, that is really important to them. Sound, right? So, it's not as easy as just rework forehead. It takes a long time.
And I'm sure we'll get into a whole segment about, or at least a few minutes about reworks later.
So, a good solution is that there's going to be characters that just can't really, like, it's not in the pipeline for them to get reworks for a long time. So, you ban them. Yes, it is a Band-Aid solution, but it's like, if we're bleeding out, we got to put something on it, right? Eventually, we're gonna die, right? Even if it's like a cut, if it's like my cut right here on the top of my wrist, and it's just very steady, very very slow, very steady. But if I don't do anything with that, it's gonna get infected.
I'm staying with your analogy here.
It's just gonna go and go. And I'm gonna have none blood.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have no blood at the end, right? So I might as well try to patch it in the meantime before I can let the recorrective surgery or reconstructive, whatever. You get it. That's what I think, right? Yeah. I understand all the arguments against hero bans. I did that whole video. I feel you. You know what I mean? Like, if that's you, if you don't like hero bans, I feel you. I get it. But I do think that it is just a net positive experience. It's not always about strength. It's about what is going to make... It's what's going to make the game fun.
Yeah.
It's not about strategy. It really isn't about strategy either, in my opinion. It really is just, if the game is not fun, then you don't want to play it. So we can make it a better experience. I don't have to play into Widow Hanzo on circuit. Yeah. Like, and that once that happens, it starts opening up, especially those maps that are very, like, secure, right? Like circuit's a good example. That's a sniper map. That's how you play. Now there's been some variations here and there, but like it's a sniper map. It's Sigma, Hanzo, Widow, Bappy, Yari.
Oh man, I can't even imagine. Whenever we load in on Circuit Royale, it's gonna be Widow, Hanzo, Sigma. Those characters get
they're all gone.
Yeah,
what do you do? Like now the
meta
it
is completely different.
Yeah.
Or maybe one character gets through and then that's the new strongest.
Right, right. And like now it's just so much like, okay, we have so much more to work with now because you play some of these characters. In fact, you don't even have to ban Sigma. In fact, after the snipers are gone, maybe Sigma isn't even as good. Now, I'm not, it's like for Circuit, I think Sigma would still be very much in line. But maybe it's time to bring out Orisa with the shield. Maybe it's time to
I don't even want to think about it. That might be my least favorite perk I've read.
It's a pretty bad one.
Yeah, because we're thinking we reworked Orisa to be a more interactive design where she's no longer sitting behind a shield. She's running at you, spinning, throwing spears, all that. And she can now do that from the comfort.
And now she's more accurate at range and has the better... Listen... We'll see, but basically...
We'll have one season where she won't get banned every game.
The game opening up like that, I think, is going to be really interesting. Now, they have said there are going to be some limits, right? Like, I think for most maps, I think tanks kind of dictate how you play a lot of the time. So, like, something like Dorado, right? You're not going to be able to ban Winston Diva, Wrecking Ball, Hazard, or something like that.
It's max 2 from one role.
Yeah. I believe from what he said. So... I think a lot of times it's still going to be like the game's going to feel similar for the most part. But on those extremities is when it's finally going to open up, right? And on the maps where it's just like, something that you can play anything on like Blizzard World, it's just going to feel like you're playing Blizzard World without the threat of somebody swapping the Widow.
Yeah.
Without the threat of just like, oh god, I didn't know they swapped hog. Like that was okay. Well, I'm hooked and I'm dead. Like that kind of thing.
I think also, whenever there's been patches where players tell immediately something's broken within like one day, it's not realistic to expect the developers, especially with all the changes that have gone with the developer team, to expect them to be able to correct things as rapid as people want. So that's when hero bans come in. For the time until they patch it, we could just ourselves ban the character that's become problematic or the meta that's become problematic. And that then tells the developers they have the feedback from the players, the feedback from the ban rates. They know that it's the right thing to do and they can do it more swiftly.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, they probably have had to think about how much of this feedback should we actually listen to? Mm-hmm. Because there's a lot of people that are saying things very loudly, but they're very loudly incorrect. Mm-hmm. And how much of that have they listened to? And then people are like, oh, no, we didn't, like, some of the player base didn't actually want that. But with ban rates, we have more than one source of feedback. Yeah. And if it's like, people are saying this, the ban rates reinforce it, let's go ahead and do it.
Another interesting thing that you can throw on there is that, let's say, Widow, it's the easy example. Mm-hmm. Widow gets banned a lot. Like that's just a character people don't want to play against in general. But then you have this selection of characters who get banned a lot, and they're like, okay, there's a problem here. And then you can look at map-specific bans and then go, oh, there's a higher density of those characters that typically people don't like getting banned on certain maps. Then that also tells them, before even map votes come into, to play, that also tells them that maybe this map has a problem if the characters that people don't like playing against are picked more often, banned rather, on those maps, right? So that is also like really good feedback for the maps in particular, and that is a very good segment. We're gonna go. I'll just go ahead. We'll skip ahead to map voting, because this one was also. They talked about how it's gonna work, where it's just gonna give you. It's not just pure random, and it's not like you pick a mode. It works on the algorithm of how Overwatch's map system picks work now. And if you didn't know this, which I don't think we knew this publicly before today, it actually does an aggregate of everyone in the lobby's least played map in the last couple of recently.
It's always been like that?
Yes, for years.
Well, after playing Rivals, I can tell you.
You can understand, right? So it's basically going, okay, you haven't played this map in a while, so it's becoming more and more likely that it's going to show up. So what it's doing now, this map veto system, is going to pick 3 maps. 2 of the maps are going to be the collective lobbies most recently not played, right? And to be clear, this is since all maps are you don't have control over the map you pick right now, it's just really going to be it's forced variety, basically. I haven't played on this one in a long time. I'm going to eventually play on it very soon, right? That's kind of how it works. So it's going to take the whole lobby's aggregate bottom 2 maps, put them in there, and then that third slot is completely random. So then you basically do have that potential forced variety, which I don't think is a bad thing for maps in particular. I think it's a really it's such an invisible system that has had an immeasurably good effect. Like you talked about Rivals.
Yeah.
Rivals pisses me off. Yeah. I'm okay, I'm in Hell's Heaven for the 3rd time in a row.
That's happened.
This is fucking hell.
I think that one is true random, and because they haven't added that many maps to the game yet, it's not uncommon for you to get the same map twice in a row or 2 times within 3 games, and it makes it get stale quicker.
Yeah.
Whenever playing that game for a while, as I have recently, it makes me appreciate how, this comes with, 8-9 years of the game being out, but the amount of maps Overwatch has and the variety of experiences you get on those maps, you shouldn't always be, we love, here at NA Overwatch, Kings Row, Lijiang, the same maps, but if we only had to play those maps, the reputation of them, I'm sure, wouldn't be as positive.
And the game would get boring.
Yeah, it is boring. It would be boring. That's why I do like the safeguard of the true random third option.
Yeah.
Because that also means that, it gives new options other than, if people always don't vote for the same maps, then, those are going to be recurring.
And out of those 3, it's, say 70% pick King's Row, 20% pick Ilios, and the final percent picks Circuit. Mm-hmm. There's still a 10% chance you play on Circuit.
Is that how hero bands work as well? Like, it's just the
that is not how hero bands are going to work.
Is that majority?
That is legitimate, like, it's straight up majority, apparently.
Okay.
That's what Gavin Winter says.
I don't hate it. It's a thing. Yeah. I don't know.
I don't think it should be random.
Yeah, I like the majority bands more. I like the map random more. I think they did the good choice on that.
Yeah, I agree.
Because, everybody should have a voice on what map we play, but it is annoying if you're trying to ban a character, and let's say you're in a 3-stack, and you and your 3-stack all ban a character, and a 4th person bans the same character as you, but a 5th one just messes it all up and it rolls that one.
Exactly, right? They're trying to figure out ways not to be able to fix the bans. Like, I have 3 people on my team, so we're all just, where we get to instantly pick. I don't know exactly what they've come up with, but it's per team as well. And also, like, it's possible that there's no bans. If you, don't vote, you could have no bans or, anything like that. So, I think for the most part, you will get 4 bans, if I had to guess, but there's a possibility where you only get, 2, because both teams picked, the same one, back to back. I don't know. That system is not here yet. So
we'll see when it gets here. And even further down the road, we'll see the map.
So I think for the most part, both of them are pretty good. Now, I honestly think. Do you want to talk about the stadium mode? I
want to talk about it a little bit.
Okay, yeah. Well, what are your thoughts about it?
I think it looks like a fun idea. From what we saw, they only have about half the characters ready for it.
It's not half. It's like a quarter.
Okay. Well, we have a quarter of the characters ready. I don't have any idea how much more will be available from now to when it comes out.
I would bet it's going to be 2 or 3 a season.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? No, it's going to launch with 14.
I think
and then after that, it's going to add and add and add.
I think it's a valuable addition to the game because they had all these assets and resources for PvE just lying around collecting dust. And those developers deserve to let people see and experience what they spent all that time on because they weren't just spending years doing nothing like people might think that Blizzard was doing.
Yeah.
There was a bunch of mess going on behind the scenes, and they were actually working on a game that they wanted to see the light of day.
It also lets them throw ideas at the wall because it looks like we are not getting a new competitive game mode this year. Thank God. After what happened with Clash and to a lesser extent Flashpoint, although I think Flashpoint is not as bad.
We need to build we need to add more maps and develop on those before jumping to a new one.
And so now they can have these silly ideas where there's a paintball mode or something that's not in the game yet in the stadium in their builds, but it probably will be later. So they can have all these silly fun modes in the PvP space in just this crazy setting. And then we can fix the other ones. It's all junk. I think people are gonna love it.
Yeah.
There's no 2 ways around it. I think people are going to love it. They loved Junkenstein's and having an option that's all year round and continually will get all of your favorite characters is going to be very interesting. And it's more map types. It's control and push and clash usable as well. There's a new map that is not.
Yeah, I saw the gameplay.
It's just some trees. It's an
Overwatch base. I didn't
recognize.
I was like, it's a new map.
I need to go. SK was streaming. I need to go watch actually some of her stuff.
I'm a huge fan of this mode being in the game.
Oh,
and I think, they're gonna look at how many people can currently play this mode, and if it's deserving of setting aside more resources for it, we might get characters added more quickly if they devote more to it. I'll definitely play it. I think it'll be a lot of fun. I don't think anybody should have any hope or dream of this being fair, balanced, whatever. That's not the point.
No.
It's not the point. The point is, this is the throwing shit at the wall mode where, just all out. Nothing has to be fair or balanced. We have all these crazy upgrades, pages of, builds and everything.
Overwatch having a silly mode is crucial.
It's the heart and soul of the game.
It's crucial. And I think, if I had to guess, no roll queue, 1 queue, which is going to be perfect for them. And it's people love rivals for being silly. And having a way for the main game of Overwatch to not conflict with that, with what they've been doing. Now, I guess perks. You know, we're not gonna go back into that, but having a way to those not conflict, I think, is really good. So we haven't. I don't think either of us are as knowledgeable on it yet. So I'll go ahead and move us off of that. But talking about maps and trying things, my last topic I want to talk about before we go into the next section, since we're an hour in here, this was going to happen. This was a lot of dumping at the same time.
Yeah, we're just having fun with it.
Yeah, we're just going on.
We're just having fun with it.
Is Flashpoint is talking about both Flashpoint maps are getting reworked this year, and an additional one. We finally know an additional one is coming in about 2 seasons? I think it was
17. I think.
Yeah, 17.
15's in a week, and then so
what?
You know.
I to be honest with you, what do you see in a Flashpoint what about those maps needs to get reworked?
I don't know. I really like Saravasa, and I don't think New Junk. I think New Junk's okay, but it's okay. I appreciate the aesthetic of the map more than. That's what they would rework, is the actual how it feels to play on it.
Of course.
I think what we could see is more fluid rotations between states of the game.
Yeah.
Changes to probably how spawns work. I could kind of predict that based on them adding the speed boost out of the spawn door. They could tell that whenever players aren't coordinated, it was just a mess of, we're on this point and we need to be at that point, and our spawn changed in between, but not everyone died. So half our team's here, half our team's there. That's where we need to be. Their team maybe got old spawn, maybe got new spawn, and it's just, it can be a mess at times.
I've thought about so the reason why I'm kind of interested in this in particular is that they're reworking both of them and releasing a new one. So something gives me a feeling they have a new idea about how Flashpoint should work. What that is, I don't think it's feasible to say the maps are shrinking unless they've really been working on this for a long time.
Yeah.
I wonder if we're gonna you take a point and you get booted out. Maybe you get booted back control, basically faux control. I doubt it. That doesn't really mean.
Yeah, I don't see the point of having a new game mode if they want to make it.
It's basically faux control, but you keep all your ult charge.
Yeah.
Which is that's not, you don't need a new game mode for that, right?
Yeah.
So I don't think that would be the thing. I honestly I wonder if they would just be smaller. If smaller, maybe more vertical, because they are very flat, right? Because of their size, they have to be a little flatter. Just to be able to move around and kind of understand where you are. It's already pretty hard to understand.
Yeah.
So I really don't know. I feel like it's a big undertaking, and the fact that it's taken so long for us to get a new Flashpoint map is probably they saw the reception to Flashpoint when it came out and were like, we got to push off. We got to push these back, right? We can't make another gigantic labor of love, because these are the problem with Flashpoint. They're so big, and they all have to have 5 distinct points. You think about New Junk, yes, it's one unified aesthetic, but there's different types of lighting and textures and all the points to try to make them feel different. Surabasa, you know which point you're on, and that's a really difficult thing to do, especially trying to make the maps, trying to understand how to navigate them as well. So that's why I thought that Clash was there. Okay, small map, symmetrical map. Easy. We're just going to pump out the Clash maps while we, and then okay, Clash is a complete game mode after a couple years, and then we go finish, push, and Flashpoint. And now Clash has also been fucking gone. It's been canned. So it's weird. So I think they've been working on this for a while. If I had to guess, for both of them to change and a new one coming basically at the same time, they must have been working on these Flashpoint reworks for a long time.
And so so we got the Clash maps, Throne of Anubis and Hanaoka, right? And they were reworks of the 2CP maps into the Clash.
To an extent.
They're the same place, and they probably used some of the same assets.
They used plenty, yeah.
But they're gone now, so I'm wondering, how do they...
Are they gonna?
They're in quick play, but
and they're gonna be in what's it called? What's it
Stadium.
Called?
Stadium, right?
Yeah.
I'm just wondering what they're going to do, with that mode in general, because for the amount of work they put in on it, it's kind of a waste to just say we're canning it entirely, right?
Yeah, I think they're just gonna become Stadium.
Yeah.
Like, they're gonna exist in quick play. And the problem is that I think the Clash maps are gonna be coming out in like Edition. You know what I mean? Like you can't make the map for the season a Clash map anymore.
Yeah, it's like when they added deathmatch maps.
Yeah,
like back in the like dark days of Overwatch 1, when it was like our big updates would be like, here's a new deathmatch map, and it's like this isn't a huge update, but it just lets us know you guys are doing things right now.
Right. So yeah, I don't know. I honestly didn't necessarily think Flashpoint needed a full rework.
Yeah, I
think New Junk needs some tuning.
Yeah.
I think it's got some really horrible chokes. Like Surabasa does not have that problem. I think it's a lot easier, like wider. But yeah, New Junk has definitely got some growing pains. So that is welcome, but it is kind of silly to be like, we've only had these for a year and a half. Like, we haven't gotten a new Flashpoint map, and by the time this one comes out, almost 2 years, like nearly 2 years. And once we finally get our next one, all the other ones are getting completely like rehauled, which is nice.
It'll be kind of like adding 3 new maps, I guess.
Yeah,
in a way.
I agree. It's
depending on how much they rework.
But yeah, okay. So that is what we're gonna talk about. I mean, like there's plenty more, of course, but that's what we're gonna leave it there for the spotlight. Now we're gonna move on to the next section here. We're gonna be talking about Langston Overwatch. First off, what is your relationship with Overwatch? When did you start? What made you play? You know, what are you doing now? How much do you play now? I think that's probably the best place to go.
So, you know, I'm an 05 baby. And so in early 2018, I was at a friend's birthday party, and one of his brothers was on like the family computer playing a game, and I had no idea what this game was, but it looked really fun, and I think he was playing Farah, and he was, you know, flying around.
Fun,
yeah, but I just saw these like Disney-esque characters on the screen, all with different abilities, and I was like, what game are you playing? And he was like, I'm playing Overwatch. I was like, I want to play that game. And so, like, he said, oh, after this game, I'll just let you have a turn. And so I played on his computer, and I just immediately fell in love with the game. So it was like a month later for my birthday, my 13th birthday that year. I just asked for Overwatch. That was all I wanted. And so I think it was like $30 at the time. I just got the game and played on my family computer. I didn't even have a PC yet. So I was just, you know, playing with like crappy office keyboard and mouse, doing whatever, having fun. And I don't think I touched ranked until after I had a computer a year later. And I placed bronze, like 1100 SR. I didn't have a main yet. I just played like Genji, Diva, Reaper, you know, bunch of random bullshit. And eventually I just decided I wanted to pick a main. So I just looked at the hero roster and I thought who would be fun. And, you know, Lucio just looked really fun. You know, my favorite color is green, and I like frogs a decent amount. And he rides on walls, and he moves fast. It's like, what else could you want from a character? And so...
Pretty good argument, I suppose.
And so I think that summer I decided I was going to try to go from bronze to gold. And so since I didn't have school, and I was like 14, I didn't have a job, I would just watch videos about how to get better at Overwatch, get on ranked, and, you know, just play Lucio, Reaper, and Diva based on what role the team needed, because, you know, there was no role queue at the time.
Right.
And I just played a lot and climbed from bronze to gold in a couple months. And I really didn't start taking the game seriously as more than just playing, you know, solo queuing ranked or playing with my friends until COVID, when I had a lot of time, you know, just do you know, things that...
Doing nothing.
Yeah, stuck in my room. And so I joined a few Overwatch tournaments, a few teams. I kept playing ranked, I kept grinding and getting better. I think there was a season where I only picked Lucio for the entire season to get from plat to like mid-diamond. And I was like, why do people hate one tricks? Like, that's how I climbed. And I was like, I guess Lucio is just a good character to pick because he's very rarely a bad choice.
And I mean, in the time you would have been playing, you're in, you know, around the end of Moth and into the hellscape of goats. So Lucio is a very, very strong pick regardless.
Yeah. I mean, no, it was whenever I started one tricking Lucio, it was after roll queue. It was COVID, remember?
Oh.
Yeah. Whenever I started playing, it was goats meta, but I was in bronze. People were playing.
Yeah, they weren't doing.
People were not doing goats, and everyone who tried failed horribly because they weren't coordinated, and we just win anyways with DPS.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I played Lucio in 2020, hit Diamond for the first time, and that was hype. Like,
right.
I was ecstatic that I hit Diamond. I had friends telling me I couldn't do it, playfully, because we were all plat and gold players.
Right.
So I was like, I think I can hit Diamond. I think I can take this Lucio character all the way. And, I did it, and that felt good. I got to Masters for the first time in late 2020, and then hit GM the following year in 2021. And then Overwatch 2 came, I went through a little bit of not playing it for a little bit, and then Overwatch 2 came out. I was right back in it for a decent amount. After about a year of Overwatch 2, I think it had been a year, I was in college. I got my first year in UGA, and I figured this school probably has an esports program, right? So I found the server, joined up, tried out. I think I made white the first time, and then the next semester I was in red, and then now...
Yeah, you were like a sub for red, I think.
Yeah, I was a sub for red, player on white, but I spent most of my time subbing for red because they had a player with tech issues. Right. So I just became the de facto red player. Mm-hmm. And, I've been playing on and off for, very strong spurts of time since then.
Yeah, well... it's great. Langston, I coached Langston because I coached Red.
I needed the help. I still do.
I coached Red, I think for 2 semesters, and then I stopped because I realized I didn't like coaching anymore, to be honest with you. But that's how I know Langston through college. Although I was already graduated by the time.
Yeah, you were just still helping.
I'm still hanging around just because. But that is great. I guess since you talk about Lucio so much, we'll go ahead. What about him? What about Lucio goes? Okay, this is the one, right? A little more detailed than just Frogman who goes on the walls.
How much more detail can you go into?
Okay.
I mean, I guess I could. I like music. Him being a DJ is pretty cool. But if we're talking actual gameplay, I think he is one of the best designed characters in Overwatch.
Oh yeah.
You play him and you have visual indicators, audio indicators, what you're doing. They added I think this was well before I started playing the game, but apparently didn't have the actual visual ring when the game came out.
No, you didn't. It was much larger.
That helps, because if you didn't tell a new player that's how that worked, they think they have to shoot their teammates or something. Right. But he's very intuitive. Wall riding is probably the most fun thing that I've had doing in the game. Mm-hmm. I used to spend, whenever I was waiting for friends to get on, or while doing while you waits, once they added that, I would just go into Lucio Surf custom games. It's so fun. I think it's probably the ADHD, but jumping around is just so fun. And then also, I realized whenever in my early comp times that I enjoyed playing support. Mm-hmm. I think everybody, especially 13-year-olds, they want to immediately jump in and play DPS damage. And I was like that. I started with Genji, but whenever I started playing support, I found it much more satisfying to help the team win that way. Mm-hmm. And find support is a lot more of an open-ended role of what their job is to do.
Well, Lucio is.
Yeah.
Lucio nowadays, I guess you're right. But I think at the time, in 2020, Lucio had a little bit, he's got more to do than most supports did back then.
Yeah, and it's I found it more satisfying helping the team win through utility and boosting the team versus I'm going to go and get kills and frag out. Mm-hmm. I think I was also a bit insecure with my mechanical ability, so I went from trying to frag on Genji to trying to frag on Lucio because no one's going to be watching your frags and aim and kills if you're on Lucio.
Right.
But other than that, I guess I could tell a little bit of a side tangent story. Whenever I was finding tournaments and teams, one of the ones I was in was in a Discord server organized by the Lucio voice actor himself. And I had an organized team on one of his hosted tournaments, and I won one of them, so that was pretty hype.
That's cool.
But being in VC with the Lucio voice actor was because sometimes he would play with his community, and I was in he got a stack of people he wanted to play ranked with to help him climb because that was his goal. Mm-hmm. And hearing his voice was I don't know, it was crazy. It was mind-blowing. It was it was the same voice because he doesn't do that much to change his voice for the character. Right. It's kind of just him on caffeine. And so hearing that and hearing him like spectate and commentate like my gameplay in the tournament, it was just like a mind-blowing experience. And so I just think everything that I don't think if that character was in the game I would have put as much time, and I don't think I'd be here on a podcast about the game today if Lucio didn't exist. I still love the game itself, but like he was the hook.
Right.
And he's the thing that if everything else about the game sucks, if Lucio's still in the game, I'll still probably come back.
He's still there. Yeah.
Which is why if my character ever gets banned a lot, I kind of empathize with people who main characters that are going to get banned a lot, because if it was Lucio that people hated instead of like Sombra or Moira or Widowmaker, I would probably be pretty upset about hero bans too.
Yeah. I'm actually like I was a Lucio. I used to call myself a one trick, although I'm Mr. Literally can't decide what to play, just picks
Jack
it
of all trades.
Master of none. But yeah, I kind of got shoehorned into Lucio on Black when I got on that roster because I wanted to play flex support, and they were like, Farce, he wanted to play flex support because he was an actual Lucio player, very high ranked, and he just didn't want to spend another team, like another semester, playing Lucio, main support, Lucio and Brig, really. So that role went to me. So I was like, well, I love Lucio because he's cool, and then I learned Lucio through him. He was a very good teacher, and that's how I got to Masters, because he literally just gave me the confidence, because I didn't play much. I hated playing ranked, and I'm not gonna lie, I still do. I still have a little bit of a away from it. I don't want to touch it that much, but yeah, he basically was like, oh, you're at least like 3,400 level cracked. Yeah. And I was like, what? I was like, no way. I was like, I barely played this character. And so then that summer, I just ran it down mid. I just played ranked. But I don't know what ever gave me this motivation. I just played ranked by myself and got up to 3,500. And it was the most euphoric moment of my life.
That was my experience. That's why I think the times I've climbed the most was when I had that kind of mindset where either I was telling myself I can do it, or somebody else told me I couldn't, and I was like, I can do it.
Yeah, exactly.
But I was like, when I was in bronze and I had my own PC for the first time, I was like, I had an actual keyboard and mouse, headset, the whole thing. I could run the game at more than 40 FPS. I was like, I could totally be higher than bronze,
Yeah.
And it was pretty much just, motivation, because, bronze, the games were unimaginably horrible sometimes, but I just had to push through it. And I think that a little bit of a side tangent, I think that's kind of why I was glad they changed the way the Overwatch, that is a good change they made to Overwatch 2 whenever they changed the ranked system to where you could actually see how much you gain and lose, because you kind of lost that bit of euphoric feeling if it's just I need to wait until I win 7 games or lose 10 games.
I honestly it's so crazy because I've blocked that period out. You know what I mean? I've totally just forgotten about how the game played back then. I say back then it was really that long ago, but it was really such a dramatic change when Season 9 hit that we got a proper rank system back, and everyone will be like, oh, it shouldn't have gone in the first place, and we can go down that. Oh my god, we can do that forever and ever and ever.
I have to rebuild the engine. I'm just gonna. We're here where we are now.
Yeah. So that's also this weekend kind of revealed to me how much the
rank
changed.
icon. The rank icon being in the portrait is such a little thing.
They're like, yeah, we had to rebuild that from scratch.
Yeah, it's such a little thing that I mean, I didn't hate that it left. I'm not it's kind of like the loot boxes. I'm not it's not
which they had to rebuild from scratch.
Yeah, it's not a deal breaker or a thing that's but it's just a thing that's nice to have.
Yeah.
Because whenever I loaded in Overwatch 2 and didn't have it, it was one of those things where it's what's the point of removing it?
Yeah.
I don't think it. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I mean, not to derail this section, but they've kind of revealed Aaron Keller. I don't remember exactly the specifics what it was, but he was there's something again there's another example of something that we haven't brought back or didn't bring back because we would have had to do it again, and it's what is this new engine that you're using that has so much? I figured it was just whatever the Overwatch engine is 2.0, but it really had so much stuff that broke. That kind of was it the card system that was probably one of them?
Oh yeah, the card system also.
Yeah, there was like something that
I kind of missed that.
Yeah, I do too.
But with how much pregame stuff they're adding, I don't want to like it to be a 30-minute experience of map voting, hero selecting.
Well, to be fair, like they did try to make quicker game modes like Clash, but they've kind of had to walk that back.
But then on the other hand, some games you'd be spending more time in pre and post than you would be in the game itself.
Yeah. Okay, so
back on track.
Anyways, Lucio, outside of Lucio, outside of the guy you love, who do you like? Who's your favorite outside of Lucio? And if at all possible, outside of the support cast?
I could tell you both, actually.
Yeah.
Historically speaking, Genji was one of the first characters I gravitated towards. Mm-hmm. But whenever I started playing with my friends, there were like 4 people that wanted to play Genji, so I was like, y'all can have him.
Yeah.
But, let's see. Within the support cast, I've grown. I used to hate her, but I've grown to actually. She's probably my second favorite support. Brig.
Yeah,
Brig in Overwatch 1 was such a problematic design, but they did something beautiful with that character to where I think she's one of the highest skill expression characters from little things that you can play now.
Removing the stun from her bash and making it go further was like. Such a change that I did not like. I didn't think felt good at the time, but now I think it actually brings so much more dynamic decision making to her.
And changing the bash from like a cooldown to an ult, because it changes the way you think about when to cast your ult instead of just like we're all going in now. It can also be like I need to stop something. I'm gonna be stronger. I'm gonna peel for myself.
Yeah.
But yeah, and she's kind of come full circle to where she used to be like a low level player pick that you could just pick the character, immediately get value, rank up just by playing the easy character. And now I think she's the opposite.
She's so hard to get a lot of value on her.
If anybody hops on Brig, she can be one of the lowest value supports. But if you really, really know how to play the character, there's a lot of really high rank Brig mains. Mm-hmm. And I think that's a good sign of character design. I think they've done a good job. I love once the character became good to play with and against, I started to appreciate her design itself a lot more. Things about the actual character's aesthetic and appearance. She's a very actually likable character.
Okay, I'm not going that far.
Well, I'm talking about her lore wise.
No, I know.
As a hero, she's the mechanic, strong. She hangs out with Reinhardt. I think it's very cool.
I don't like how it comes across in game. I don't know. She seems very I don't know how to describe it. Her in the cinematic is actually crazy because she's a different character.
Yeah.
She's very she's scalding Reinhardt, and she's very, I don't want to say headstrong, that feels like the wrong word. But she's very defined, right? And then in game she's I just want to be in the clouds so I can write poetry. And I'm okay, bro, let's calm down on the corniness, please. I don't know. I never found Brig's in-game character to really live up to what I think she could be.
Yeah.
And I find a lot of characters like that.
I think there's also been... I think the change in, writing team has probably affected that as well, with Michael Chu leaving and all that, because...
When did that happen? A couple years ago? I don't know, anyways. Yeah.
Sometime before, right before Overwatch 2 actually came out. But, Baptiste, I like Baptiste a lot.
Yeah.
I like his character. I think, kind of like Brig, his kit has been he's still, I don't know, there's still, I'm not here to talk about balance. I think he's cool. I think he's cool, and it kind of, in the hands of a support player, you kind of get to control more than one aspect of just healing compared to a support like Moira or Lifeweaver, where if you just want to say fuck it and start shooting people, you can do that on Baptiste and get a lot of value. In fact, the people that do it are getting a lot more value than those who don't.
I think it's funny that some of the later additions to Overwatch 1, who people were what, this is terrible. These characters are so broken or busted, like Bap and Brig and Sig and Echo to an extent, ended up becoming, I think, finding their place much nicer in 5v5 in Overwatch 2. Specifically, Sigma, I think, really came into his own. Instead of just being the extremely annoying off-tank with the shield that just is always there, to, I think, a pretty exploitable character with some really high highs. And like BAP, I think is one that also like nobody complains about emo anymore. Because you can.
It feels so interactable.
You can kill it. You can get around to spaces where you can kill the immortality.
I think there's also something to be said about the shift from 5 to 5 benefiting that, because one
exactly.
shield in front of it versus 2, and also saving the lives of one tank versus 2.
Exactly. Like if you can have space to get around the map, it's a lot harder to find a position where immo is going to be safe and also effective. A lot of times you could use immo early to just do some belligerent shooting.
I love how dynamic his play is, because you can relocate yourself really easily with the jump. You can just window for yourself and just start shooting people. Like, it doesn't... On that character, it doesn't feel as much compared to some other characters that you're doing the same thing all game.
I think his moment to moment is a good flow. I do think his abilities... I don't hate him. I think regen burst is the one that really is a little...
I think they twist the knob on that ability too much whenever they need to look for something.
They need something new.
Something more interesting.
Yeah.
Because it's like, healing circle. But outside of support, historically, I like Cassidy a lot. He's a very cool character. I love Matthew Mercer, the voice actor. He has a lot of my favorite skins. Same with the Reaper. Cassidy, Reaper, and Genji. I think those characters I initially gravitated towards because they have a cool aesthetic and they have cool skins.
There's a couple characters that cannot get bad skins, and I think Reaper is one of them.
Yeah, he didn't miss for a while. I remember I joined the game. Whenever I started playing the game, something I would actually think about is which skin am I going to go for next whenever I have enough credits to get it.
Yeah.
And I remember I had like on my notes app, I'd be like, do I want biker more than the pumpkin skin, or do I want the pumpkin skin more?
I see a biker enthusiast.
Yeah, when I was 13 or 14, like that was one of the most important things in the game to me, was like thinking about which skin I wanted to grind for the most next.
Yeah.
And when it was a lot simpler then. I think I appreciate those parts of the game that like still exist today and existed back then, other than just like grinding for rank or playing competitive.
Yeah. So yeah, that's great and all. Let's talk. We'll get to your point that you wanted to talk to me about at the end of this section. But I think last thing I'll ask before that is, you play Rivals a lot now.
Yeah.
Is there stuff that I kind of thought you were like Rivals pilled forever, and then you went back on the Overwatch team and you seem back enthused about it. Is there anything that you think Rivals does better? Or that you maybe would want to see in Overwatch that it does, or maybe you just don't think they need to compete like that?
I think it's literally like oh my gosh, 2 cakes.
Yeah.
Like, I was worried about Overwatch whenever Rivals came out, because they just weren't fighting back for a while. I was like, Overwatch, fight back, please.
They're on vacation.
Fight back. Like, they were all gone, and while they were gone, they're like, we're dropping Rivals now.
Also, Rivals launched early. It was supposed to launch this year.
They weren't ready, and it's like, this Spotlight, I think, did a lot. It's another reason why I loved this Spotlight, because one of the things that I think they implemented really well in Rivals was the ban system. I think it's universally well liked. I haven't heard anybody who plays Rivals be like, man, I don't like the ban system. It's like I said earlier when we had the whole segment about it, like, it's a way for players to curate their own experience better. And I like the protect system as well. I think that could also be implemented in Overwatch to some extent if they want to.
Is that even in ranked, or is that only in the tournament mode?
It's only in the tournament mode, but there's, I don't know. They also, the thing that Overwatch is doing better, supposedly, I don't like the random ban, because I've had situations where 5 people will ban something and one person just out of nowhere will ban something else, and that's what's get banned. It's like, dude, what are you doing, man? Come on.
That always feels bad. Like, I haven't played enough Rivals ranked to even get the diamond, because I don't want to. I definitely could. I had one day on Strange where I just I didn't die. Like, I played a couple games where I just didn't die. So like, I could get up there. Like, I'm sure I could.
Yeah.
But I've played like TFT, and they do they've been doing these. I haven't played in a while, but they did these like portal things where it's like, okay, this game, this is gonna happen. You have 3 choices, but then it rolls. Everyone in the lobby, and there are some that just kind of suck, and you really don't want to play. And there's just one random person kind of trolling you, and we're being held hostage for the next 30 minutes in this gameplay loop that we don't like.
Yeah.
So I can see the ban system like that also being...
Yeah. So, yeah, that's something that Overwatch, if it's how they're saying, like, will be implemented and be even better. But, yeah, it's like the two cakes meme. It's like, I don't want to be like, fuck Overwatch, I'm only playing Rivals. Fuck Rivals, I'm only playing Overwatch now.
Yeah.
It's like, I have different reasons to enjoy... I mean, I can get into it, but, like, I think there's definitely possible to enjoy both. Now... Is it possible to climb... Like, if you have a certain amount of free time and you're wanting to climb in either one of those games, if you're splitting your time, will you be able to do that as effectively? No. But, like, I think you can have fun on both. And if anything, if you're switching it up between the two, then you might find it less stale. Because you become very, like, nearsighted in your opinions about things when you're only doing the same thing over and over again. And... things I like about Rivals, I guess to kind of bring it back specifically to your question, I like the Marvel IP a lot, so that goes a long way for me. I think if you don't care about Marvel, there's a chance you might enjoy it, but, I think it amplifies the experience. There's definitely problems. There's hella problems. Literally, and, like, in both ways. Like... I don't think the game's anywhere close to, like, completely balanced, and I don't think it has that much competitive integrity. But I think it's some good fun. I think especially whenever you're not in a lobby of people that have solved the meta, it's good fun. I think the cosmetics they've rolled out have all been really good. I have bought the current battle pass because I think it's that good. Let's see, what else? I think the in-game tournament system is a really, really good feature.
I'm surprised we didn't see something like that.
Yeah, I think if Overwatch was going to implement a faction feature, I think the only point of it existing would be if there was an in-game tournament feature.
Yeah.
I thought we were going to get that when they said a new way to compete, and then they went into the that's what I thought Stadium was.
I thought I did too, and when I saw that, they just had it like on the list. I was like, oh shit, is it happening? Tourney mode? No.
But there's a lot of bullshit in the game to where I think there's definitely a world where after like the honeymoon phase for everyone ends, I'm just like, fuck this, man. I'm going back to Overwatch. I don't want to fight this meta or these characters. And then I think there's like phases of Overwatch where I might also come back. I don't think it's a world where, you have choices. Like you don't have to be ride or die for one thing or the other. A lot of people think they need to be, but, like, I don't know. But a lot of things that I think Overwatch does better, I think the characters, even though we talked about the conventions they kind of put themselves in nowadays, I think when they make a character, they put so much work into making that character unique. Yeah. From their kit to little things like, the game's first person while the other one's third person, so what you're seeing for most of the game is, hands and weapon. And whenever, like, your character's waving or saying things or reloading or doing anything, they put that character into every animation they make. Yeah. That's something that Rivals kind of misses from the third-person POV and also a lot of the overlap between characters. Like, how many, female characters do we have, like, waving their hands when they do things? A lot. And... if
I had a nickel for every blonde support... that just made an AoE ult.
Yeah, that's another thing.
The entire team.
How many transcendences do we need in this game?
Yeah.
Like, I do think if you take those out of the game, then it shifts everything. The power balance completely goes out of whack because of how strong they made DPS characters in the game. That's why I don't think GOATs would ever be a thing in Rivals in its current state, because you can tell when your team doesn't have a DPS character. I think it's good fun. And yeah. I think you, like I've said over and over, like, you can find things you enjoy about both and play both. I think Spotlight was a major punchback for Overwatch. They added so many things that people have been asking for a long time. Well, will be adding.
And it's
over
things
time.
a wider audience would like. And, I think I'm kind of one to say that you don't need to appeal to the wider audience because the people will find you. Mm-hmm. The people who like what you put will find it. And you don't make... In my opinion, you don't make money off the wider audience. you make money off the people who play the game.
Yeah.
Right? Like, you don't need to worry about getting the most amount of consumers. You want to have the highest spending. And I'm sorry, I'm going into like money talk.
Yeah.
But I mean, in the regard, it's like if your populace is lower, doesn't quite matter. Mm-hmm. So, like, in my opinion, you don't need to, do the casual stuff. Now, is it probably a good thing overall? I'm not going to say no.
Yeah.
So, I'm not going to talk about it.
I think there's an argument to be made that if they do appeal to more people, they might be able to get more resources to then do the things that their most devoted players
that's
want.
always like the loop, and I'm not going to go into here about like how I feel about like only doing casual, only doing one way or the other. But it is a choice, and Rivals is definitely on that casual base.
I think it doesn't have to be a thing where you only focus on the bad of Overwatch, you only focus on the bad or good of Rivals or good of Overwatch. There can be things you take away from both, and Rivals doesn't have Lucio, so
Rivals does not have Lucio.
That's a big knock against it.
So. You want to speed boost your team? Play Jeff or Storm. I forgot Storm.
Yeah, that's stupid. One thing that Rivals did have that, we're not going to get into 5v5 versus 6v6 because that's a tired topic, but I think it is just an objectively true statement that one of the things that a lot of people found enjoyment from was tank pairings and tank synergies, and playing tank with like a tank duo, like my friend or someone on like some random on a team. It is an experience that we kind of miss in 5v5. We miss out on because it's a lot of fun being like going from I need to protect my entire team to me and this other guy are going to protect our entire team. How are we going to do that? And it's a lot of fun. I think like map variety, there's a lot of things that make the game become stale that make me go like, you guys can keep playing, I'm going to take a break.
Yeah.
And I still play it a lot, but I think I am excited enough about this spotlight to where I think at least out of the gate, I'm going to play a lot of Overwatch.
Yeah.
And I think there's a good chance I go back to like a 50-50 balance or, whatever. But
yeah, I don't know. I've kind of fallen off a little bit. I say a little bit. I really have not had motivation to play. I had fun. I like what it's doing in a lot of aspects, but honestly, to me, and I'm about to move on here. It's really the engine. The engine bugs me to really bad extents. And I know, it's not, knocking what the game does right, but for a game that you're going to play so often, and you're going to put, me, I really like to improve and kind of, put a lot of time and effort into, thinking about what I'm doing all the time. If I feel like the engine is fighting me, or, things are moving too fast for me to even keep up with, or any connectivity issues and all that stuff, then it's just not something I think I can play all the time. It's something I can boot into and have a good time, but it's not one that I'm going to be like, all right, I'm here, I'm playing Rivals again. I'm playing this my third time this week. It's going to be like, nah, I think I'm going to play when the Human Torch and the Thing come out, and I'll give it a little go, but otherwise, kind of just no motivation for me.
Yeah,
right
I'm
now.
Blessed to be able to run my PC to be able to run the game on all the lowest settings at around 140, 150 FPS most of the time. But when Strange Portals, everything goes to shit.
Yeah.
I'm dropping frames like crazy, and we can wrap Rivals up there.
Yeah. So that's what I wanted to say. So what you brought up, you wanted to talk about reworks.
Yes.
How so? Let's talk about it. This will be our last one in this section, and we'll go into the final part.
Countdown.
Yeah, exactly.
Wait, the MCA. My bad.
Yeah. you think you did it that accurately that you're going to get hit? Yeah, sure.
So reworks. I wanted to talk about it because, it's a very common thing you talk about on this channel. Some of your most popular videos are talking about reworking
back
characters.
In the day. I mean, I haven't done this money recently.
Well, there's only so many times you could talk about
back
reworking
in the day,
Sombra.
less than a year ago.
But what I want to talk about is because they did talk about reworking characters in the future, and this ban system also provides a tool for them to decide which ones to do next. But I was thinking about it, and I think a lot of these people have been with their characters for years, and reworking a character runs the risk of changing that character's identity so much to the point where you don't even like gravitate towards what that character does anymore.
Right.
I think there's reworks in history that have been good. I think most of them have been pretty good. Like, there's ones as minimal as just, like, adding the pig pen. And, oh, I mean, that's not minimal. They changed the ult a lot, too. And
the ball one is minimal.
The ball one is, like, doesn't even exist
They
in my
stopped
eyes.
calling it a rework.
Yeah, but, like, characters like Doomfist I was thinking about recently, he probably lost most... Like, that character probably lost most of the player community whenever it shifted from DPS to tank.
Oh, I know.
So different.
Trust me, I had a lot of people in my comments on my Doomfist video not happy that I thought it was like, well, you can't have this character back. And they're like, no, the tank version is just like nothing terrible.
I think there's heavy merit to reworks. Like, when they made Sombra as like the second character to come out, they had no idea what Overwatch was going to look like a few years down the line.
Yeah.
That character's been reworked so many times, it's hardly even the same character as whenever it released.
It feels like 5 times at this point.
Yeah. And I think that character somehow maintains the same community, even if the character is like goes from being amazing to horrible every other season. But you know, like Orisa, I think initially was a good rework because it moved the character. Like, I personally am an Overwatch 2 Orisa hater vehemently,
I know.
But I think playing as the character and how the character generally feels was a net positive because it went from stationary bunkering to, you know, I'm running in and throwing, like, not dying the whole time, but like,
I'm falling asleep at the wheel playing Classic when I'm piloting Orisa. Yeah. I'm like, oh my god. And her primary fire is just so inaccurate too.
Yeah.
It feels like I'm just like the Halt demon. Like I just sit there and I hit my right click every 10 seconds or whatever it is. Like, it's so boring. So yeah, at least they got like one piece of the puzzle on that rework. And I think most of the other, I mean, Fortify is the crux, but yeah.
Yeah. But reworks as a whole, I think it's just a difficult thing to do. Because I think a lot of them are things they want to do with characters, but don't have the resources to make a full character yet. So they put it in some form as a rework for a character that already exists. But I think I would rather that if it's an already beloved character that they're changing so heavily that it changes their identity, I would honestly rather just wait for the new character to come out.
I don't know, because I see where you're coming from, and I mean, obviously, you know me, I'm a rework head.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I'm very much in favor of making, you know, characters. Because the thing is that, like, at some point, balance is not enough.
Yeah.
You cannot balance Widowmaker to make her fun and fair to fight against while making her still strong and, you know, what they want to do, right? I don't agree with the idea that some characters should just be weaker because they're easy or, you know, they're frustrating or something like that. I think it's just kind of a waste.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's a weird intersection, and the thing that I wanted to bring up is that I feel like going forward we're going to have a lot less hero reworks because now with these passive or these perks,
you have more things that would change.
It's more things that change, and the more things you have to make sure are, you know, working properly. It's more dev time, longer and longer. The Reaper rework was canceled.
Yeah.
The Reaper,
wait, did they say that officially?
They were talking about that on stream today. Somebody was talking about it. But the Reaper rework ended up being canned because Reaper kind of stumbled his way balance-wise, and they had a couple other ideas. They were like, yeah, is this really worth the effort? They said they want him to TP through walls or something like that as one of the things at least. And they were like, this is going to be a lot of tech stuff we have to figure out. What's the benefit? Does it really fix any problems with Reaper? So really, I think it's tough because the more that they add to individual characters especially, the harder it gets to rework. And now, with hero bans coming as well, more and more and more, I feel like they're just going to be disincentivized from reworks. So I have a feeling that the amount of character reworks we're going to get is going to be probably close to nothing in the near future.
Yeah. I was thinking about just, like, if they were to rework Mercy again so fundamentally to where like her beam wasn't like the beam didn't exist.
Yeah.
Like, would that character still have a player base coming back, or would they like how many people would like still gravitate towards the character if playing the character felt completely different?
You got to find the fundamentals, right? You can't make them completely different. And to an extent, I feel like the Doom rework did somewhat fail on that about like what people really like, but the specifically diehard Doomfist players really liked. But like think about Mercy. What is really special about Mercy? It is the movement. It's the fluidity of movement. It's all that you can do with it. And it's also res being like a really essential part of her kit, right? Of her character.
Yeah.
Right. So you have to think about not only the character design and feel, but you have to think about the lore. You have to think about like how do they feel? Like they have to have this. That's part of like who they are, right? So like a Widow rework, she's not going to feel the same without a one shot.
Yeah.
In some capacity. How do you keep that? You know, how do you keep the problematic stuff, right? Because the problems are core to their kit. Like they're core to that character. So even if you rework her or those characters, you need to keep some of that identity. So that is where it's really tough. And, you know, sometimes they lose that.
I think it's why they've had so much trouble with Sombra, because
Torb is a really bad example too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But like the original idea at the drawing board for Sombra is so abstract. Like she's hacking people. It's like, what does that mean?
She hacks the cart.
Yeah.
What?
What does that like what does that mean for her as a character interacting with other characters?
Yeah.
I don't know if they thought about it as specifically as they think about it with characters moving forward, because they probably think a lot more about the specific interactions with other characters versus I think Sombra is just such a like an out there character in comparison with everyone else. And so in different metas and different states of the character, she's been everywhere in terms of strength, how it feels to play her. And I don't know. I just think it's really interesting because I think I think it's why characters coming out got a bit slower. They put a lot more thought into it, so they don't have to spend resources to then rework the character 5 times down the line instead of releasing 5 more new characters.
Yeah, I mean that's also the thing, right? Character reworks, they don't take as much dev time as like a real character, but they really do take a lot. You know what I mean? They take a lot more, so it's hard. And if they don't do it well, they don't do it right, then that's a lot of time wasted. And I think a lot of the Overwatch 2 post-launch reworks have been like Roadhog in particular.
Yeah.
So it's hard to justify, right? So I think that's also why I think we're going to see less and less. It's like there's just so many resources, and like we don't have a good idea.
Yeah.
We don't have a good enough idea, I guess.
I think it's also why... Okay, think about how many knobs we've given the game now, how many things to tweak. Every character now has 4 perks. And all these things and all these reworks. How are we shifting this game from 5v5 to 6v6 again with all of this stuff?
Have you heard that they will be running it with the perks, the 6v6 competitive time.
Is the 6v6 competitive coming out the gate now?
It's going to be coming in the mid-season.
All right, so that's what they said that I got confused by a little bit, because they said Season 15 will be coming out, and then after coming out, there will be a 6v6 competitive. And I didn't know if that meant like still it's coming out or if it's mid-season.
Yeah, it's mid-season, but it will have perks. And
there's so much in the game. They're adding... Yeah. That's 4 more perks to add to the game. Or 8 more, because you're adding 1 to each team. That's 8 more perks to keep track of.
Oh, I mean, yeah.
And now, like... And if you reworked all these tanks to be... Or a lot of the tanks to be 5v5 oriented, are we now... changing, how much are we changing all of them to go back to 6v6?
Yeah, are the 6v6 tanks, you know how like Hog had his old kit? One of his perks is about throwing pig pen.
How is that perk going to change?
Yeah, is Hog...
Did they even
maybe
think
they aren't
about
going to change. Maybe they aren't, maybe this test will not be, like, it won't have the old stuff. Maybe
I can't help but feel
versions.
for, like, the amount of work the devs have out for
There's
them.
so many permutations. There's so many things. Like,
and no matter what they do, there's going to be Billy Bob 125 who says that was a terrible decision and this is awful and they should be laid off.
A lot of people who are also just going to not try to engage with it, you know? And I think that's a really hard, like, difficult thing, especially as a player. You should engage. You should attempt to see where the devs are going and attempt to meet them at where it's going to be, right? We don't play a fantasy game in our head. We play Overwatch on our computers right now.
Yeah.
So like, what is the game right now? How do you change the game in realistic goals? How do you work with the direction that they want to go, right? If this is the direction, perks, then
we'll work with it.
Let's work with it, right?
Mm-hmm.
We can get to a spot like I have my reservations about it. I have my concerns, but like I'm here, right? I'm like, you guys are the devs. Mm-hmm. I'm not the dev.
We're trusting you.
I'm putting my faith in you, and I'm going to meet you where I can, right? Like I play a lot of video games. I put myself out in fucking terrible, out of my comfort zone just to try things, and sometimes I find a lot to love. Sometimes I leave scathing reviews, but I feel like that's what you have to be, right? You have to be adventurous. You have to just be like, you can't just be content with everything, because at some point, like, especially for a game you play thousands of hours of, you can't just fine tune it all to the minutia. Mm-hmm. First off, it's not going to happen, but second, if it did happen, it's going to get, eventually it will get stale.
Yeah, there will be no perfect state of the game. I think we all need to come to terms with that if we haven't already. We just need to find the best possible to where is it both fun and close to fair. Yeah. Because, and I think that's another reason why hero bans is a good decision, because you can, like, it might not be a great experience still, but you can cut the worst possible experiences out and still have the most fun you can with what you have. And that's, I don't know. And there will be people, I mean, it's important that we don't, like, give the devs an echo chamber where we think every decision is good. It's important to have your feedback be heard, but let's also be fair and, like, thinking about their thought process and the workload that things take and, all of that.
I think that's also, like, you have to do think, I think a lot of people don't think about, like, and maybe they don't know about how development works. How does game development even work? What takes time? What are the priorities, right? I think it's very easy to compare like games and go like, well, these two games have heroes and this game pumps out heroes way faster. What are these guys over here doing? And it's like, well, they have different goals. They have different pipelines.
What are the pros and cons of characters coming out fast? Are they unique enough?
Valorant can make fast characters, but I think because they don't have to make new rigs or models. Like, they just have to put them all in the same stuff. Whereas, Overwatch makes completely new things every time. That's
and in that game, it's fair for characters to be similar because Flash is a flash, smoke is a smoke. Like, we're making it different colors.
You don't have to make new weapons.
Yeah,
right. It's you kind of have to like think about it like that. It's like you have to meet the kind of think about like what are their goals and what is unique. And again, you don't have to have a perfect understanding. I don't exactly know how long a hero pipeline takes, but it's definitely over a year. You know what I mean?
I think that I'm fine with the devs trying stuff and messing up. Mm-hmm. I like the current state that the devs are in, where they communicate their thought processes in a fairly good rate. At a fairly good rate. They've done a lot better communicating in the last, year or so, probably. Yeah. Like, even when they mess up, like, you can at least say that they say what they tried, and they'll eventually say, hey, we're going to correct it. This is where we messed up.
I appreciate when they say, like, hey, we messed up, and, like, hey, we're going to do this.
And
but
they didn't do that for years. Yeah, so now that they are doing it, it's like, now we can work.
I do want to say, though, I do respect when developers stand by stuff, too, because, you can agree you made a mistake, but I think just complete, like, hard reverting or, like, not even giving the changes a chance to breathe is really, like, antithetical to
players
what
are
we're
wrong
really
sometimes.
trying to do.
A lot of the time.
Yeah. Like, listen, I don't think Rivals' like rank reset thing was a good idea.
And they went back on it.
And immediately. But they like instantly like tried. I was like, what's the point? Do you care about it? That like if you cared about that choice, you'd be like, hey, we'll try it. We'll test it.
I think it was a dumb choice.
They just were like, no, actually, never mind. You're right. Yeah. It's like, what's the point? Even like with Overwatch has done it a couple times. The Ramatra, like, no punching through shields.
Mm-hmm. Lifeweaver's passive.
Yeah,
you remember Lifeweaver's
and they're just
passive?
they do parting gift.
They're bringing it back as a perk.
Wait, did they actually?
Yes,
that's great.
It's not the enemies can't pick it up.
That's a good idea. But basically, it's like you're trying something. Why not give it some room to breathe? You can admit that it's gonna like not work eventually. Like you'd be like, hey, it didn't really work. Like we wanted to, it's back. But like just not giving it the chance. And I think a lot of people, again, like if the devs don't give it a chance, like if the devs back out super fast,
how do you expect?
How do you expect other people, the people playing your game, to want to give things in the future that kind of same respect? So, yeah, in my opinion, you do need to make swings, and you need to have like a vision. You know, you're not like the players don't know. You guys don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah,
I don't know. We don't know what we're talking about, right? We
Yeah.
don't make games. Like I wish I would. I wish I could.
And we also, whenever they make choices, they're doing them with a certain amount of ethos of what they think is going to happen.
Yeah.
They have a reasoning that we don't know yet because they've done it behind closed doors.
Yeah.
And whenever it comes out, it might not even look close to what they imagined it was when they made it.
Mhm.
And then they get the player feedback, and it's like, this is the idealized version of what we did. This is the reality.
Yeah.
Now, we can alter things, we can revert things, we can work with it. But, like, I don't think we should ever shame developers for trying shit, basically.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Yeah. I mean, I understand it is a live service, and it's like it lives and dies by its player base, but also like the developers are what give it life.
This has officially become the Blizzard Shill podcast.
It's not Blizzard Shill. I don't give a shit.
We're the Blizzard Shills.
I will show for anything that makes a creative choice and sticks by it. That
We like art.
Yeah,
especially now that AI is.
I don't play a product.
Yeah.
I don't play purely for entertainment.
Yeah.
If I did, I would play fucking PUBG or some dumb shit. I would anytime any whatever slop game. I can't speak examples. People are gonna come after me. No, I'll say if Power World. Like I'm not playing Power World. You know what I mean?
I didn't
like,
play it.
Like I'm not playing just whatever. I want to see the artistry.
Mm-hmm.
I want to see it with my own eyes and see the respect and the care. So, yeah, I don't just play anything. There's a reason why Overwatch is the only one that's like multiplayer space in particular. Like I see something very special here.
Mm-hmm. It's like through its up and downs, I can still definitively say. I mean, it'd just be lying after all this time. That is one of my favorite games of all time. If it were to go to shit tomorrow, if Mago were to be meta for another 2 years, I would still say that it was one of my favorite games of all time.
The same thing, like I say, like I love Strive, but its current state is like really poor.
Yeah.
But like, does that erase the technical?
times.
Does it erase the soundtrack? Does it erase the
DNA of the game?
The design, right? Does it erase the characters that I like? No, it doesn't. So it's hard to say, and I think it's also the thing of like, oh, I'm a big fan of, Mario and Luigi series. Now, I'm saying, not me in particular, I haven't played many of them, but a lot of people will be like, yeah, Brothership sucks. That game sucks. And then, like, I played Brothership, and I went, this is fun. I like this one. It's because I don't have the experience of, like, the whole series. But you also kind of have to, like, take a step back and be like, what is this game actually doing well? Still got the animation and the character and the good combat system. Like, it's got all the elements. It's just in comparison to the stuff that you know about.
Yeah, I think that's what made a lot of people like heartbroken to leave Overwatch whenever they thought it was at its worst. Is because in there was still the game that they fell in love with, but it was surrounded by things that they didn't like.
Exactly.
I personally have been like on that before. I mean, I've come back. So.
And it's not a game that you just play. You know what I mean? Like I've played plenty of games where like I like a lot of stuff and I don't like a lot of stuff about it. But it's like I sat down for 15 hours. And
yeah.
This
game's an investment, for better or for worse, and once you're in, like, you're in.
It's very easy for me to look back on a game that I have problems with fondly because I only spent a limited amount of time with it, right? Like, I think Dragon's Dogma 2, I just played last year, and I thought there was a lot of things that I didn't particularly vibe with, but whenever I think about that game, I only think of these really high, really cool moments, right? If I were to have played, Overwatch for 20 hours, I would have been like, that game was sick.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people think that don't play Overwatch. Like, that game used to be sick. What happened to it?
Yeah.
It's like, that game is... The reason why you remember it being sick is still there.
Yeah.
I have
friends who, throughout history, of my life, who have tried to put on the game.
Uh-huh.
And some of them stuck with it, but some of them quit after, like, 10 hours. And whenever the game gets brought up, they just remember, like, the character that they hate. It's like, Junkrat. Yeah. I hate Junkrat. If I ever see Junkrat, I'm gonna... And it's like... Yeah, but like if you put time into the game, not only would you realize Junkrat is not even one of the major evils out there in the game, you would learn how to play around it, but like if you like every other character in the game, I don't think that you would still drop the game.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Wow, that's
reworks, huh?
Yeah, reworks, right. Okay. That was great. Thank you. Last section here. I've got a little surprise. You may have seen it, but it's called gamification. So, Langston Overwatch, this is the wheel, and it has letters on it. Those correspond to numbers. I'm going to try and speak into the microphone here. Go ahead, spin that wheel for me so I can give you my general gaming questions. I don't have a segment name for this, so pitch it in the comments below. What does that say? Is that C?
C.
C. Langston Overwatch. You can come back. We might do. I think we'll do like 2 or 3 of the spins.
Yeah.
I guess this one that I have here, and I'm going to try and work on some of these questions because some of them I think are much more interesting than others. This one, just in general, do you prefer PC or console gaming, or really? Do you like playing at a monitor setup? Do you like couch playing? Do you like handheld? You know, what's your most ideal way to play something?
Definitely nowadays, I spend 99% of my time whenever I do play games on PC, and I think there's a lot of merit to console. Like even when I'm playing a casual game on PC, I'm plugging in a controller, right?
Yeah.
I'm not wanting to lean forward, keyboard and mouse, playing like I don't know. Hades or something. Like Hades is a very high action game.
I actually play Hades on keyboard and mouse.
There's a lot of games where I think especially if it's not a shooter or a first person game,
absolutely.
I'd rather play with controller. I can lean back and relax, you know. I think so like the first like 13, 14 years of my life I only had console.
Yeah.
And there are things that I don't miss about it because my only option was to play on the living room TV in front of everybody. So I either had people watching me, like, you know, backseat gaming, trying to get the TV back from me to do something else with it, or just, like, you know, running around, and it's like, I don't know. It feels like a lot more of a personal experience whenever it's you and your PC. I also like the experience of building my PC. I've built friends' PCs, and it, like, when you build a PC... like, it's more yours, in my opinion.
Right.
Your custom PC, like, that's yours. Versus, like, you have the PS4, that's the PS4, everybody, they all have the PS4. I also appreciate being able the multi-function of PC in general. I can, like, switch gears from playing games to doing homework to listening to music really easily.
Yeah.
And I know there's some equivalents of that on console. I will have to say my favorite console is the Switch.
Okay.
Because of the portability of it, the handheld. Whenever I play on a console, it's the Switch.
Right.
Nintendo also just has unbeatable catalog.
Yeah, of course.
With all the shitty business that they do, they make really good games.
They do. I agree. Those Nintendo games. My audience, my background, you know, in my stream, since my room can only be situated basically one way for it to function properly, you don't get to see my background, but I have a very extensive Amiibo collection. I'm a big Nintendo old head. I had a Wii U before I had a PlayStation, you know, for years. Like, I didn't get my PlayStation until like 2015. So I get that. I love the couch. I love playing a game on my couch. Controller most of the time. In fact, this might be heresy, even for some FPS games. Sometimes I just want to play on a controller, and not a multiplayer game. I would die. I would hate it. But like, I'm not opposed to like sitting down playing Doom.
Yeah, it's like, for me, especially now as a young adult, like if I'm spending a lot of time doing like work or like schoolwork on the computer, like, you know, attentive, sitting up, doing that.
Yeah. It's
a bit much to also in your leisure time also be like that, you know, playing video games. It's like it needs time to, like, you know, just relax on a couch with a controller. And it's like, I think a lot of people could, like, get a lot more appreciation for video games in general. Like people say like video games are dying. It's like, well, what do you play? Like, let's branch out a bit. Like there's a space for, you don't have to always be playing the newest like competitive game or the newest shooter or anything. Like I think most people when they started playing video games, a lot of people at least played games that are like, E10 and up, like Nintendo titles or non-Nintendo titles that are more like younger audience oriented. It's like those are still good games, and there's still games similar to those still coming out. It's like, let's go back to our roots a bit.
Yeah.
Like I think I could do that even more than I do now, but as I've been in college, I've kind of had that like shift back to like granted I've been emulating a lot of it, but it's like, let's go back and play like some of those old Zelda games. Those are my first games. Like let's go back to them.
I think it's hard because a lot of people, there's a financial burden. It's hard because like games are just so expensive that it's hard to really get people to take a risk because a lot, I've never felt that personally. I've never felt regret for playing something.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I've never been like, oh, I regretted playing that because I didn't like it. I don't care, right? But a lot of people go, oh, I regret spending $70 on that and just having like a terrible experience, right? And I guess I understand as somebody who's just like I want to experience it all. Mm-hmm. I don't get it, but I don't get it in theory. Like I understand, but like, it is tough. So I understand like PC gaming is also like you'll find good sales. It's easy. You don't have to find the hardware or anything. Like there's a lot to it. I've kind of fallen off playing on my PC. I've gotten really into physical collection. Yeah. And I also just hate doing graphic settings. I want the experience a developer tailors to me. Mm-hmm. So I just want to sit down on my couch, hit play, and go like, this is what this team wanted me to experience.
Yeah, and there's a lot to that. Like, if you're playing on like the Xbox 360, for an example, you put in an Xbox 360 game. That game, as long as the console is still usable and the disc is still good, or digital, wherever you have it as, for the rest of time, that game will run as it was intended on that. Yeah. Versus if you're wanting to play a new game, but your PC you built back in like 2014, it might not be able to run the game. It might not even let you. Can. Maybe it can.
Maybe it gets a little in and then breaks. And then
it's like, and with like the owning things physical, I'd say like nowadays, especially with a lot of studios and companies not letting you actually own things anymore. Yeah. It's like, this is my CD that I will own, not when some online cloud software decides to go down or take the game away.
Yeah. And thanks to Betamax, in the Betamax case, you are allowed to legally take ROMs from discs. So emulation is legal because it's you don't just own the CD, you own the actual
the information.
It's the same thing as like, oh, you're allowed to like make copies. That's why you're allowed to make copies of DVDs. Mm-hmm. You're just not allowed to like share it with people. You're not allowed to share it, especially for money, obviously. Yeah. But there's also some legal gray area about like, well, I own a disc with that exact same build, but I just downloaded it from the internet. But like, it's the exact same thing, right? But anyways, I like the console. I like that. But PC gaming obviously has its perks as well. So give me another spin.
Wheel time.
Spinny. I guess I'll start. E. What is a game that you find to be either criminally underrated or overlooked?
Overlooked or underrated? Let's see. I gotta put on my indie hat now.
Exactly right. If you need some time, I can go first.
Oh yeah, you go first, and I'll think while listening to you.
I play a lot of stuff all the time, but I think one game that really just like completely flew under most people's radar is a game called Cyber Shadow. It is Yacht Club Games Ninja Gaiden type. So Yacht Club made Shovel Knight, and they made a Ninja Gaiden game, and it's one of the most like interesting revitalizations of that like an old formula I've played in a while, because it's got like old I would say bugs as like mechanics. So I remember I was playing the game halfway through this game, and it's like giving me a tip about damage boosting. And it's like, yeah, you can damage boost and like get through platforms that you like get through traps that you probably wouldn't have been able to beforehand. And it's like that is built into the game design. Like exploiting all the systems of the game, not just the ones that were, were like intended, right? It's like if a system is there to save you or to be a quality of life, you can actually use it in combat or in the platforming.
Yeah.
Very interesting. Super cool. It's got an awesome style. It's got a super good ending with like a 3-phase boss fight. It's a yacht club game, for God's sakes. How did people let this one go by them? Like, I was so excited for it. I got to play it. It was so good. And then like just nothing. No fanfare whatsoever. If you have not heard of Cyber Shadow, I'm sure it's like giga cheap. It came out like 4 years ago at this point. So you should give it a shot. I need to spread the good word of Cyber Shadow to more people.
All right. So, I was struggling. So I'm gonna pick one that I'm not sure. I think it's fairly popular, but anybody who hasn't played it should play it. It could just be
underrated too.
Yeah, underrated.
It could be like a well-loved game, and you say like, nah, they don't get it.
So there's an indie game that I randomly got because it was on sale at Steam, and I thought it looked like it had a intriguing design. It's called Amori. Yes, it's like a Earthbound style JRPG, kind of like Undertale, but not really like Undertale. But it was just a game that I got randomly and immediately just like was very hooked by the story.
Yeah.
And like it's a very emotional game, and it got me at a very turbulent part of my life.
Mm-hmm.
So, but it's a very, very well written and well paced game where you essentially explore the psyche of the character you're playing as, and it does it in a very intelligent way. It's got a little bit of like horror aspect, but not really. It's more psychological than like, trying to jump scare you.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember when I got to the ending of the game, I cried. I literally cried.
Yeah.
At my desk playing that game. And I remember I played through it in like a week, and I was in like my first part-time job, and I remember I would come home from work and just play the game.
Yeah.
And that was just what I wanted to do. And so if you haven't played it, you definitely should, but maybe have some tissues nearby. It's Amori.
All right, I've heard of Amori. I've heard very good things about it, but I haven't played it yet. I feel like it feels wrong to play something that's so inspired by like Earthbound or something, and I haven't even played Earthbound.
I haven't played Earthbound.
Well, yeah, I understand. So yeah, that's good. I think it's always good to talk about games that a lot of people may not know, because there's a lot of really good stuff out there that goes overlooked because it's not the biggest thing ever.
Yeah.
Or there's games that people have the wrong idea of, and you play it and you go, you're wrong. But
yeah.
I think both of those games are pretty well received. They're just like hard.
It's like there can always be more people.
Yeah.
Play it. I think it was like a team of like 5 to 10 people, and it took them like 8 years to make it.
Yeah.
I think it was a Kickstarter, and people were a little bit upset because it had an initial planned release of like 4 years after it, ended up taking a bit more. Mm-hmm. But when it came out, it was just, you could tell why they took the time to do it, because it has so much in it. Just characters you could talk to, random storylines, random places to go to. It's a very full, very good game.
That's good. All right, give me one more.
One more.
And then we do our final segment.
I thought this was the final segment.
No, this is not the special segment.
Oh, I rolled E again.
Oh. Don't tell me that's C again.
I think it's I.
That is I. Okay. Oh God.
It's the same color. I just had to make sure.
Okay, I'm actually gonna. This one we kind of already talked about stuff.
Do I need to do another spin?
No, I'm just gonna give you one. It's all an illusion of choice, anyways. Are there any gimmicks that you think are sick?
Any gimmicks?
Yeah. So like, are there any gaming gimmicks like like motion controls. Something that people would generally either don't like or like, I mean, they guess they don't have to not like it, but is there anything that you actually like, no, I actually really vibe with something like out of the box?
I loved the Wii motion control games that they just pushed out random like bullshit shovelware for.
Yeah.
And I found that there was a really, really good application of it in the game WarioWare Smooth Moves.
That's not shovelware.
No, that's not it. That's I said this is like that's like the pinnacle of use of it.
Yeah, okay.
That game has hundreds of mini games.
Yeah.
Just with like random ways to apply motion controls. And I played that game when I was a kid, and I think I played through it multiple times because of how much I loved it. So I think motion controls in general, I think the Switch has some good applications of it as well. It's kind of like the refined version of Wii's motion controls. I don't know if they've been as creative with it as they could be.
Well, they aren't as good because it's kind of like pseudo. You know, since it doesn't have a pointer to recalibrate all the time, it's hard to keep it in line. So, in my opinion, I think most of the Switch's motion control stuff is a little inferior to like a Wii Motion Plus.
Yeah, especially when they got the Motion Plus.
Yeah, exactly.
Because I think 1-2 Switch tried to like capture that fire again.
Yeah.
And it was like a third of the games were fun or playable. Like,
I have 1-2 Switch and everybody 1-2 Switch.
I haven't played the sequel yet. I didn't even realize it happened.
I haven't either.
I didn't even realize it happened, but I remember whenever the Switch launched, 1-2 Switch was like one of the only games on launch. So I got it, and
me too.
I think it was fun the first couple times. But
my friends love the baby.
There was a lot of games that I would just never return to on that one.
Yeah.
Or ones that it was just like nothing. Like there was a sandwich one where all you do is
sandwiches, just right?
Yeah.
What are you doing? What are you doing there?
Well, there was like an air guitar one as well.
Yeah, yeah.
Where it was literally just like.
What about Monkey?
Yeah.
Or Gorilla.
That one was good.
It's just a rhythm game.
Yeah, but it's like how many of them was just shaking the Wii remote? Who could shake it? Like there was the bottle one as well. It's like how many times can we make someone shake the controller up and down?
Yeah.
It's
I'm
like,
trying to remember the ones. You know, Quick Draw, obviously. The
wizard one.
The one with like the chest, where you're like moving the. You have to unravel the.
Yeah, that one was actually.
My friends
good.
loved the baby.
I liked the one where you had to try to count how many marbles were in the. Because it was like, it was so mind blowing. It was like, how can you make it feel like there's actually a certain amount?
That's the HD Rumble.
Yeah, that they used for like.
Yeah.
A game so you can count on one hand. I actually do like the Skyward Sword Switch remaster because you could either just not do motion controls entirely or you could do it and it was better, I think.
I have two drifting right Joy-Cons.
Yeah.
So I don't have a pair of Joy-Cons that work, so I can't play Skyward Sword in the way that I would want to.
I remember when my left one got so bad that it was unusable, I bought a new left Joy-Con on Amazon, but I bought one where it could only be used handheld only. Because it was cheaper and also because I was like, dude, I'm not buying a Joy-Con just for it to end up not working again.
I went to multiple GameStops and they had like so many single Joy-Cons all on the other side. Because the side that I needed drifts more often because it's used more often.
Yeah, I think the left one drifts more often.
Yeah.
The right one is sold less because I think also, doesn't the right one have like more like...
It's got more stuff.
It has like the sensor. Yeah, that's what it is. So they produce less of it. Well, anyways, motion control's a cool gimmick.
I cannot tell a lie. I like the idea. So Toys to Life is old. And I think the actual Toys to Life it's just
like
silly.
Skylanders?
Yeah, but the game Starlink Battle for Atlas, the one where you strap in, like you basically attach the ship to your controller, and then in real life change out the weapons. And then it changes them in game.
I haven't played it, but
it's not a great game. But the idea of like I literally have my ship on like a thing of my ship on my controller, and then you can kind of pretend like you're piloting it, and then like you just go scramble like for your weapons mid combat. To me, that is super fucking.
I remember liking the first Skylanders game when I was a kid, but my parents didn't. because I would ask for it.
Well,
And also my dog chewed up a couple.
They were yearly releases too, so it's like, okay, we're out of the Skyline. It's like,
Yeah.
I need a giant.
I only played the first one.
Okay.
I don't think
your parents.
I don't think I ever asked for a new one or received a new one. I actually liked it though, but it's just like, I don't know. When I was a kid, and I was very like replay. I was a replay guy. I replayed games. I don't know if it says anything about any undiagnosed condition like things, but I would when I was a kid. When I was a kid, instead of playing a new game, I would play Majora's Mask for the 8th time. Yeah. I would go back and play Spyro's Adventure again before getting Giants.
Well, because you can't open the air gates because you didn't have an air character, and now you can.
Yeah, it's just like I don't know. I wish I had that again now, kinda, because I feel like I'm a lot quicker to drop things now, and I don't know. I want to go back and play the old Zelda games again.
Oh yeah, I mean those are always good. I just played like Twilight Princess last year and I loved it. So I need to get on like I haven't played Link to the Past. It's one of my big blind spots is I haven't played Link to the Past yet, and I want to play Skyward Sword.
I don't think this isn't a gimmick, but backwards compatibility is the best thing.
Yeah,
the Wii was so backwards compatible.
Yeah. You
had GameCube ports on the top for GameCube
controllers. It's crazy that they actually put GameCube
You could play games from every console before the Wii, on the Wii. I played the N64 Zelda games on the Wii.
Well, they had a virtual console, right?
Yeah. Yeah, they had a built-in emulator on the Wii in 2007.
Yeah, that's not exactly backwards compatibility, technically. Yeah, backwards compatibility plays it natively.
But you could even put GameCube discs in the same drive on the Wii.
Yeah.
I didn't own a GameCube. I played GameCube games on the Wii. That was my first console. I only had the Wii, so that kind of impacted a lot of my first games.
Okay, so with that, I'm putting the wheel away. So Langston Overwatch, I have asked you to give me 5 of your favorite games. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna need you to list those 5 games out for me right now.
5 to 1 or 1 to 5?
We'll do 5 to 1 for shits and giggles.
All right. 5. Oh, now I gotta order it. I shouldn't have even asked. I should have just asked not to order them.
Just list them. It doesn't matter. The order doesn't matter.
Okay. Legend of Zelda: Majora's Mask.
Okay.
Cuphead.
Omori,
like I said earlier.
Omori.
Hades.
Oh,
now I gotta come up with a 5th one. I've had all this time.
You can put Overwatch.
Overwatch.
Okay. So. This is something, and by the way, if you're here and you don't know me very well, this is not a safe space for conservatives. But this is about to be my favorite segment that I've been dying for. Where are my bookmarks, man? Show bookmarks bar. All bookmarks. Okay. Have you ever heard of the woke content like?
Yes. Is this like an AI or not an AI, but they put a list of games that are woke so people don't play them?
Yes. So we're trying to see to see how woke you are.
Dude, I think all 5 are going to be on there.
How woke are you? I believe Majora's Mask was the first one.
Yeah.
Oh god, this is going to be harder.
Imagine it tells me I'm a conservative.
It's not on here. Okay, you got off scot-free. Okay, actually, well,
what if it just says Zelda as like an umbrella term?
No, it wouldn't do that, I don't think. But I will look up Zelda.
Zelda isn't.
This might be Steam.
Oh.
Let's check. What's another Switch game? If I type in Mario.
No, I don't. So Nintendo.
Yeah, it looks like this looks like it's a Steam type beat.
So I need to come up with a new 5th.
You can start coming up with them. What about this? Like, really, it's not in this at all? I don't know what's the best. In fact, if you're watching this and you have any better ones, because I'm actually really looking for the most cohesive one I can find. But yeah, you do have Omori, right?
Yeah.
So I know Omori will be on here.
Yeah, it's got like mental
health. Is it Omori?
Yeah.
What?
Dude.
I'm striking out.
This is not what it looks like.
Omori, okay. Majora's Mask, Overwatch. Yay! Not recommended.
Contains overtly pro-LGBTQ plus messaging.
Yeah, lots of diverse and LGBTQ plus characters, retroactively changing the sexuality of many characters to be more inclusive. Wow.
Tisk,
Wow.
tisk. Everyone knows Blizzard's very, very woke and...
So, of the one game that we could find, what were any of the others? Cuphead. Cuphead should be okay. Recommended. Contains no woke content. 1 for 2.
Alright, and then, Hades?
Hades.
I said Hades.
Oh, Hades is going to be...
oh, dude, Hades is probably one of the ones that kicked off this list.
There's Hades 2. Uh-oh, not looking
not
good.
Not recommended.
There's Hades 1. Wow.
Says almost the exact same thing.
Contains overly pro-LGBTQ messaging, homosexual relationship between minor characters, optional homosexual romance, the NPC Chaos is non-binary, the NPC Dusa says she is asexual. Why would you play this? How could you play this?
I guess I just have bad taste.
How could you play this evil woke game? Like, I don't even understand. Like, I don't understand how anyone could play Hades. Like, I don't I don't know.
I couldn't even imagine. I'm sorry.
Yeah, you need to repent.
I'm sorry for coming on your podcast and.
Yeah. I do need to find a better DEI detector.
Yeah, you can do it with AI now.
Oh no, not a chance. Yeah, so that is it. This episode was longer than normal, I believe, because we had so much to talk about. You're gonna mimic me. I've had so much deja vu today. I've had like 3 instances. Anyways, that is it. I think we're going to end it here. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate it. I'm not going to shout out anything because I shout yourself out. Do you want anyone to follow you or do you care?
I go by Langston on pretty much everything, so if you see me around, follow me. I don't think anybody else has that name. Thank you for having me on.
Of course.
The first episode, it was nice to be here.
Most of these probably won't end up being in person because I'm going to run out of friends that I know.
Yeah. Not everyone's in the area.
In real life, yeah, not everybody's in the area. So we're going to figure out what it's going to look like later when that happens.
If you ever find a justified reason to have me back on, all you need to do is reach out.
Of course. So, thank you. Peace out. I will be ending it here. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.